Chapter 2373. 10 days later. Accompanied by a wave of light and shadows that revolved within the secret realm, a few tens of fist-sized balls of multicolored liquid light floated up and down within the profound Tao flames, and they rained down a myriad of misty rain of light. At this point, Lin Sun felt relieved. The smelting was successful. Dozens of Emperor weapons had been melted into liquid divine materials. When Lin Sun looked up at All-Fire Emperor in the distance, the latter waved his sleeve and 10 light balls whizzed over. "I've been waiting for you for a long time. Thank you, Senior." Lin Sun was refreshed and put away the divine materials one by one. Next, Lin Sun took out a lot of divine medicine and sat cross-legged on the ground to restore his exhausted physical strength. Until one day later, Lin Sun stood up and felt the surging and abundant power in his body. Finally, he no longer hesitated and began to refine the weapon. Boom! The profound Tao flames transformed into a furnace that rumbled without end, and it emanated an aura that seemed capable of incinerating the heavens and the earth. Lin Sun's black eyes were like lightning. He released a calm and transcendent charm. With a wave of his sleeve, a group of divine materials that had been smelted flew out and merged into the fire of Tao. Rise! A world of light and shadow appeared behind Lin Sun's figure. It was vast, brilliant, and boundless, and there were various great Taos deduced within it. It reflected the sun, moon, stars, the sky, the earth, mountains, rivers, everything, the cycle of the 4 seasons. This was the extreme manifestation of his cultivation. Upon seeing this scene, the myriad flames' spiritual emperor, Shi, and Yellow in the distance were all astonished. They were all amazed by this scene. This was the first time they saw Lin Sun's real cultivation. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they wouldn't have believed that a young emperor in the 3rd level of the Emperor realm could have the foundation of the Great Way. It was too strong. It completely subverted their cognition. Only Xia Ji and Loka were indifferent. Xia Ji never cared about these things, while Loka couldn't understand how heaven-defying and terrifying such cultivation was due to the limitation of her cultivation. Boom! Lin Sun's cultivation roared and suddenly evolved into many Taoist formation diagrams, and in the formation diagrams, various Taoist techniques evolved into Taoist runes that intertwined with each other, showing their wonders. Using his own Taoist laws as the formation and his laws as the patterns. So it turns out that this kid's attainments in Tao markings. His attainments have attained an unfathomable state, and he's seized all fortune. Wanhua Ling Huang's eyes flickered. Her original body was the connate Tao fire, and she had accompanied the mother furnace for countless years. How could she not know the wonders of the Tao pattern? It was precisely because she understood that she was shocked at first sight. She and Big Yellow were also staring at it, and their thoughts were almost the same as 10,000 Fire's spirit emperors. Tao markings, striations of the Grand Tao. They appeared in the world, and they described the most essential profundities of the Grand Tao. From the small veins on a blade of grass to the large veins that formed a world, all of them revealed the most primitive traces of the Grand Tao. Since ancient times, there has been an irrefutable truth. Those who had the passage marks in their hearts could grasp the mysteries of the heavens. Obviously, Lin Sun's attainments in Taoist tattoos far exceeded those of Taoist tattoos masters in the secular sense and reached an incredible level. Little 5. Lin Sun called out suddenly. Whoosh! The childlike formation spirit rushed out, glanced around, and immediately understood. Without hesitation, it began to control and deduce the Taoist tattoos that Lin Sun had just set up, and integrated them into the divine materials in the wonderful Tao fire. It had to be said that Little 5 was indeed the formation spirit of the 5th killing formation of all heavens. He was naturally able to control all kinds of Tao pattern formation diagrams. At this moment, the method of setting up the formation was controlled by him, and there was not a single flaw. Seeing this, Lin Sun was relieved and began to concentrate on refining the weapon embryo. Time flew, and another half a month passed unknowingly. On this day, 10,000 Fire's Spirit Emperor seemed to sense something. She glanced at Lin Sun, who was still concentrating on refining in the distance, and finally did not disturb him. She turned and disappeared from the Taoist field, entering the deepest part of the Sea of Fire world below the secret realm. In the boiling lava, a fiery red crystal egg lay quietly, with wisps of purple phoenix flames burning on its surface, releasing an aura like the rhythm of life. Is it finally going to awaken? Seeing this, 10,000 Fire's Spirit Emperor was rarely excited. For countless years, she had been guarding here, and had long been looking forward to the legendary ancestor of the deity Phoenix from Nirvana in the egg. Don't worry, as long as I am here, no one will interfere with your path of Nirvana transformation, 10,000 Fire's Spirit Emperor murmured. At the same time, in the secret realm, Lien Jiuxiao looked solemn, and he hurried over, as if there was an urgent matter. But when he saw Lin Sun, who was focused on refining, he hesitated. At the same time, when he saw Shi Yellow and Xia Ji, he was also a little confused. You are? Lien Jiuxiao said. Yellow raised his paw and pointed at Lin Sun, with a touch of reservation on his face. He coughed and said, We are his elders. She looked indifferent and did not say anything. Xia Ji glanced at Yellow and said, Your master is Lin Sun's senior brother, so you are also Lin Sun's junior. Yellow rolled his eyes and was too lazy to argue. He squinted at Lien Jiuxiao and said, Is there an urgent matter that you came here for? Lien Jiuxiao hesitated and said quickly, The White Tiger and Black Tortoise clans launched an attack not long ago. The leader of the deity Phoenix tribe asked me to inform you to be careful from now on. But don't worry, as long as we don't fight to the last moment, there will be no danger here. Yellow nodded and said, Got it? You can go back and tell Huang Tsangtian that with us here, we will definitely not let anything happen to this kid. But at this moment Lin Sun, who was refining, suddenly said, Yellow, go outside with Shi and Xia Ji to help. You don't need to guard this place. Yellow was surprised, she was stunned, and Xia Ji frowned. That's not necessary. The battle has just begun, Lien Jiuxiao said. He did not think that only 2 women and a dog could change anything. Let's go. As she spoke, he headed straight for the exit of the secret realm. At this moment, Lin Sun was at the critical moment of refining, so he could not be distracted. Xia Ji followed closely behind. She obviously obeyed Lin Sun's orders. Only Yellow was annoyed and he muttered. He said he doesn't need help, but he still went. Isn't he looking for trouble? Wait, the White Tiger tribe and the Black Tortoise tribe. Suddenly, Yellow's eyes lit up, as if he thought of a tempting picture, and his saliva dripped down. The next moment, he hurriedly chased after Lin Sun. This. Lien Jiuxiao was startled, and he hurriedly left. Little 5, don't be distracted. At the same time, Lin Sun reminded. It took 10 days to smelt the divine materials, and now it took another half a month to set up the formation and refine the prototype. Now was the critical moment of refining, and there was no room for error. Even though he knew that the outside world was already in a war, Lin Sun could only abandon all distractions and concentrate on refining. Little 5 also realized this, and did not dare to be distracted anymore. He concentrated on controlling the formation. Boom! The profound Tao flames rumbled like thunder, and they sprayed out a boundless rain of flames. An indistinct emperor armament was gradually condensing into form within the flames, and countless Tao markings flickered, causing it to seem mysterious and dazzling. This was definitely the most strenuous time since Lin Sun started refining. His nose was soaked with sweat, and his face was slightly pale. The physical consumption was one thing, and the mental consumption was even more. But at this critical moment in this secret realm, a breath of catastrophe suddenly emerged, like a chilly wind, and began to evaporate and gather. No. This is a taboo catastrophe for royal weapons. In the deepest part of the sea of fire below the secret realm, Wanhua Ling Huang's face suddenly changed. She suddenly raised her head. She sensed it at the first time. She couldn't be more familiar with this kind of breath. A long time ago, when the mother furnace of treasure was casting the 9 Kunlun emperors, it had encountered such a taboo catastrophe. In the end, it could only sacrifice itself to save the 9 Kunlun emperors from the catastrophe. The mother furnace of treasure was also completely destroyed at that time, leaving only a piece of origin copper block. Wanhua Ling Huang never expected that when Lin Sun was refining his life weapon, he would also attract such a taboo catastrophe, which made her worried. But now she couldn't leave, because the silent immortal phoenix ancestor beside her had signs of waking up, and she couldn't leave at this moment. Young man, you must hold on. Wanhua Ling Huang could only pray silently in her heart. The tribulation clouds were deep and pitch black like ink. They appeared out of thin air and completely disregarded the restrictive power that enveloped this mystic realm. Lin Sun's expression suddenly became extremely dignified. He was also a little unprepared, but he soon calmed down and transmitted his voice to Little Five. Little Five, you step aside. I'll handle it myself. Little Five hesitated, and his face was full of worry, but, hurry up! Lin Sun's words were decisive and unquestionable. Little Five flashed away. Almost at the same time, Lin Sun's figure flashed, and the 5 Taoist bodies appeared together. Red Fire Taoist body assisted Lin Sun to control the fire of Tao, Green Wood Taoist body and Black Water Taoist body manipulated the Taoist formation, and Platinum Taoist body and Yellow Taoist body refined the embryo. At this moment, Lin Sun had also pushed all of his strength to the limit. His abyss-like black eyes faintly flashed with a crazed expression. This time, the refining must not fail. Otherwise, all the previous efforts, the 9 Kunlun emperors, dozens of magical emperor weapons, and the piece of origin copper block would be completely destroyed. Lin Sun took a deep breath. I'd like to see whether my unformed life weapon is stronger, or the power of your catastrophe is stronger. Boom! The tribulation cloud roiled, and then a spear formed from tribulation surged out abruptly, and it swiftly slashed towards the artifact embryo within the flames of the Tao. In just a moment, the fire of Tao tumbled violently and was almost smashed. The embryo, which had not yet formed, suddenly wailed. Lin Sun, who was controlled by Lin Sun and his 5 doppelgangers, was also affected, and almost coughed up blood. There was a look of surprise on his face. The power of the catastrophe was too strong. P.S. Happy Winter Solstice, the goldfish sends blessings from home. Chapter 2374. The tribulation cloud was surging, and the taboo tribulation aura was extremely strange. Before Lin Sun could react, a series of dazzling tribulation thunder turned into divine swords and fell down. Each sword slashed at the prototype of the weapon that was about to be condensed in the wonderful Tao fire. Boom! 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 In a flash, the wonderful Tao fire, which was like a furnace, was about to collapse. The power of the tribulation thunder swords was beyond Lin Sun's imagination. The most terrible thing was that Lin Sun used his own Tao as the formation diagram and his own method as the Tao mark. The prototype that was about to be condensed was equivalent to casting his whole cultivation. Now that Lin Sun had encountered the tribulation, he also suffered a backlash. The minds of his body and the 5 Tao forms were hit by the power of landslide and tsunami. In a moment, Lin Sun coughed up a mouthful of blood. But he seemed to be unaware of it. He kept controlling the wonderful Tao fire, constantly deducing the formation diagram and refining the prototype. That was all he could do at the moment. Boom! The power of the tribulation cloud became more and more terrible. It turned into dazzling arcs and lightning, flashing with a taboo aura, and constantly bombarded. This was simply despairing. A life imperial armament that had yet to take form had actually provoked such a rarely seen calamity. If news of this were to spread, no one would dare to believe it. Lin Sun had no time to think about it. His eyes were firm and crazy. He devoted himself to the refining to resist the increasingly terrible tribulation thunder. In any case, he couldn't tolerate the failure of this refining. He couldn't. But as time went by, the power of the tribulation thunder became stronger and stronger, as if there was no end. Suffering such a bombardment, not only the wonderful Tao fire and the unformed prototype showed signs of collapse, but even Lin Sun's face became paler and paler, and blood kept flowing from the corner of his mouth. Help him! In the deepest part of the sea of fire under the secret realm, a low and ethereal voice came from the giant egg surrounded by endless phoenix flames. Myriad Fire Spirit Emperor next to him was startled. Without my power at the last moment of your nirvana awakening, it is very likely that, help him. In the giant egg, the low and ethereal voice sounded again, revealing a tone that could not be refused. Myriad Flames Spirit Emperor took a deep breath and said, "Is it because his mother is Luo Qingxuan? Forget it, since you've already made up your mind, then I'll throw caution to the wind and forge for you." In the next moment, her fiery red figure transformed into an expanse of flames that revealed the divine aura of chaos, and it whistled through the air. Boom! Another bolt of tribulation lightning struck down, turning into a lightning hammer that flickered with blinding gray lightning. At this point, the furnace formed from the flames of the Tao had already cracked apart, and it would collapse at any moment. So, everyone couldn't help but be worried about whether it would be able to resist this strike. In fact, Lin Sun was at a loss of what to do at this point. He could only hold on. At this moment, an expanse of gorgeous and dazzling divine flames appeared out of thin air, and they surged into the cauldron formed from the myriad Tao flames before the tribulation lightning hammer could. Boom! Divine flames surged, and the lightning hammer that was emitting a strange and terrifying aura was instantly incinerated. Lin Sun's black pupils shrank, and the voice of all fire's Spirit Emperor rang in his ears. "Just concentrate on refining. I'll help you resist this disaster." The myriad Tao flames, as if they had been helped by God, steamed out endless waves of fire, dazzling and brilliant. It should be known that the body of all fire's Spirit Emperor was originally the congenital Taoism fire of the mother furnace of refining treasure. Now that he was assisting the myriad Tao flames in refining, how could its power be ordinary? Lin Sun's spirit was refreshed. Without hesitation, he concentrated on setting up the formation and refining the embryo. Boom! The tribulation cloud rolled and released rolling tribulation lightning. But as soon as it fell, it was resisted by the power of all fire's Spirit Emperor. After the tribulation power was dissolved, all of it was integrated into the myriad Tao flames, which made Lin Sun's refining speed suddenly improve a lot. In the time it took to brew a cup of tea, a tool embryo was successfully refined. It was shaped like a furnace with 3 feet and 2 ears, which was almost the same as the furnace formed by the will in Lin Sun's Sea of Consciousness. On the wall of the furnace there were various Taoist formations, and inside the furnace, there were various Taoist symbols formed by various methods. Although it was still a prototype, it gave people the feeling that it had existed since the beginning of time, full of wonderful and indescribable immortal breath. Of course, at present it was only a prototype. The real form could not be revealed until the refining was successful. At this moment, Lin Sun did not dare to have any carelessness. His mind was completely immersed in refining, and there was no longer a trace of distraction. With the passage of time, the prototype was constantly transformed and perfected, showing all kinds of magic in the Emperor City of all fires. The Taoist restriction formation roared. This vast ancient city of the immortal Phoenix realm was suffering a serious attack at this moment. Outside the city, 50 emperors of White Tiger and Black Tortoise launched a full-scale attack under the command of Emperor Ancestor Qian Yin and Emperor Ancestor Wanlu. For a time, Taoist magic was like a tide, and emperor treasures were like rain, dragging gorgeous and unparalleled divine brilliance, hitting the Emperor's city of all fires with overwhelming momentum. Boom! The restriction formation that covered the Emperor's city of all fires roared like thunder, and the destructive torrent swept across, setting off monstrous divine light. This scene was undoubtedly terrifying. It should be known that any emperor could burn mountains and boil seas with a flick of their fingers, and destroy mountains and rivers. But now 50 emperors were working together, using their Taoist skills and monarch weapons to attack a city. There was no doubt that if it were not for the ancient restriction formation that the divine craftsman imperial clan had set up in the Emperor's city of all fires, it would have been impossible to resist such an attack. At present, the Emperor's city of all fires was surrounded by a light shield. Although it offset and dissolved the attacks coming from all directions, it was trembling violently. People could not help but worry about how long this light shield formation could last under such attack. In the city, Huang Tsangtian frowned, his expression solemn. Near him, the old antiques of the immortal phoenix bloodline were also gloomy, and their hearts were already covered with a layer of haze. How long can this city formation last? Huang Tsangtian asked. At most 3 days. The supreme elder of the divine craftsman imperial clan, Lian Qingqi, hesitated and said, "Lord, in my opinion, if it's just a forceful attack, there's nothing to worry about. But I'm worried that they will send a Dao pattern grandmaster to break the formation." Huang Tsangtian frowned even more. This time, the White Tiger clan and the Black Tortoise clan had obviously come prepared. How could they not know how powerful the Emperor's city of all fires restriction formation was? Maybe they had already secretly gathered Dao pattern grandmasters to deduce and crack the flaws of the restriction formation of the city of 10,000 fire imperial city. Clan leader, according to the news, only the Black Tortoise clan and the White Tiger clan are attacking the city now. When the big shot from the Permitha Luo clan arrives, the two clans will attack with all their strength, someone said worriedly. If we continue to defend passively like this, the longer we delay, the more serious the situation will be. Everyone was aware of this situation, but there was no good solution. For a moment, the atmosphere became more and more oppressive and heavy. What made them the most depressed and angry was that while the White Tiger clan and the Black Tortoise clan were attacking the city with all their strength, they were constantly making threats and taunt. Their words were full of disdain. Suddenly, a cold voice sounded. "Why don't we fight our way out?" In the distance, under Lian Jiuxiao's lead, Xi, Xie, and Goldie were already walking over. The one who spoke was Xi. Huang Tsangtian and the other Immortal Phoenix clan elders were stunned, their eyes filled with doubt. When they learned from Lian Jiuxiao that Xi and the others had come with Lin Sun, they couldn't help but reveal a look of understanding. The White Tiger clan and the Black Tortoise clan have already sealed off the outside of the city. If we rush out now, it's very likely that we will be heavily surrounded, Huang Tsangtian explained. And right now, it's not the time to go all out with them. He was waiting for the immortal phoenix ancestor to awaken from nirvana. In this way they might be able to completely reverse the situation. Boom! At this moment, an earth-shattering rumble came from the restriction formation near the distant city wall. It actually showed signs of breaking. Not good, they're breaking the formation. An old monster from the Divine Craftsman Emperor clan who was in charge of operating the formation cried out in alarm. In an instant, everyone's expression changed. Breaking the formation. The scene that they were most unwilling to see had still happened. "Just kill those who are breaking the formation," Goldie said with a faint look in his eyes. Big Yellow spoke with a gloomy look in its eyes. It could not wait to taste the White Tiger and Black Tortoise. "No, if we fight outside the city, it will only be more dangerous." Many people tried to dissuade him. "Dangerous?" Goldie sneered. "I think you're all too cautious. Forget it, I'll just go and kill the enemies myself." Xi's reaction was even more direct. Without saying a word, he flew towards the city wall that was about to be broken through. When Xie and Goldie saw this, They chased after him without hesitation. Nonsense. Do they really think we're cowards? We're doing this for their own good, an old immortal Phoenix clan elder said angrily. Clan leader, hurry up and stop them. If anything happens to them, it'll be hard to explain to Lin soon. Someone anxiously reminded. However, before Huang Tsangtian could say anything, Xia Ji and Goldie had already rushed out of the city. When everyone saw this, they were both anxious and angry. What kind of situation was this? If something happened, wouldn't the immortal Phoenix clan have to risk their lives to rescue them? At the same time, thunderous cheers came from outside the city. They're out? Those cowards finally can't sit still anymore. Quick, kill them! Ha ha, is everyone from the immortal Phoenix clan dead? They actually sent 2 women and a dog to their deaths? When they saw this scene, Emperor Ancestor Wan Lu and Emperor Ancestor Qian Yin couldn't help but smile mockingly. When people were forced into a corner, they would do anything stupid. When they saw this scene, Huang Tsangtian and the others' expressions changed. Huang Tsangtian took a deep breath and ordered, "Forget it, let's get ready to rescue them. No matter what, these 3 are fighting for the immortal Phoenix clan. We can't let them suffer like this." However, before he could finish speaking, a shocking change occurred outside the city. Chapter 2375. Outside the city. When she and the others appeared, they immediately attracted the attention of 3 great emperors. They attacked immediately. The 2 experts from the White Tiger bloodline were at the 5th and 7th level emperor realm respectively. The other expert from the true martial bloodline was at the 6th level emperor realm. Previously, these 3 great emperors were protecting a group of Dao Rune grandmasters from the 2 clans to deduce and break the grand formation of the City of 10,000 Flames. However, no one had expected that before the grand formation was broken, people would rush out first. Moreover, it was 2 women and a dog. Die! One of the great emperors from the White Tiger bloodline roared. His murderous intent filled the sky. The murderous aura he exuded could kill an ordinary cultivator. He brandished his halberd and charged at Xi. "Let me!" Big Yellow was so excited that he rushed out first. With a swipe of his paw, the surging Dao light turned into a giant net that covered the sky. Instantly, the old man and the heavenly halberd were caught in the net like prey. The old man felt a chill run down his spine, and his soul almost left his body. Only now did he suddenly realize that this fellow that looked like a dog was actually a formidable figure that was unimaginably formidable. When he wanted to struggle and resist, it was already a step too late. Whoosh! The net shrank. In the blink of an eye, the great emperor had knocked the great emperor out. If he could roast and eat a great emperor white tiger that had cultivated for an unknown period of time, Big Yellow drooled at the thought of this. No! At the same time, a terrified scream rang out. On the other side, Xi's figure flashed. Her slender hand crushed the neck of another great emperor from the White Tiger bloodline. "Don't throw it away. Keep it," Big Yellow quickly reminded. How could such a precious ingredient be thrown away? "Oh," she replied before tossing the corpse in his hand to Goldie. Boom! Not far away, Xia Ji was fighting with a level 6 great emperor from the Black Tortoise clan. Her spear cleanly destroyed the opponent's armor and pierced through his body. Blood splattered everywhere. As Xia Ji shook her wrist, the Black Tortoise's body was split open. Before it could fall to the ground, Big Yellow quickly put it away. "This is a 10,000-year-old tortoise. Stewing it into soup will definitely be very nutritious." Big Yellow was so excited that his eyes were shining. Outside the city, all the powerhouses of the White Tiger and Black Tortoise clans felt dizzy. The originally incomparably intense siege operation became much quieter at this moment. Many people were dumbfounded. In just a few blinks of an eye, the 3 emperors were defeated like chickens and dogs. One was captured alive, and the other 2 were killed. This was simply like a staggering blow that caused the experts of the White Tiger and Black Tortoise clans to be taken by surprise, and their hearts trembled. The two women and the dog had originally been mocked by them, but now they realized what it meant to be strong and terrifying. This, inside the city, Huang Tsangtian, who had already issued the order to immediately rush out to rescue Ruoshi and the others if they were in danger, sucked in a breath of cold air. The nearby Immortal Phoenix bloodline and Divine Craftsman Imperial Clan's elders were also dumbfounded. Wasn't this too ferocious? Many people felt ashamed. Earlier, none of them had imagined that she and the others would actually possess such powerful battle power. Boom! An earth-shattering rumble resounded. She's illusory figure interweaved with the power of laws, and the surrounding heaven and earth trembled and collapsed with each step she took. From afar, she was like a god descending to the mortal world, her divine might boundless. Not good. The white tiger and black tortoise Dao pattern grandmasters paled. Just as they were about to flee, they saw she wave her hand. Boundless Dao light appeared in the void and spread across the sky. The figures of the Dao pattern grandmasters were drowned in it, and in an instant their souls dispersed. Quick, go and kill them! In the distance, Myriad Flow Imperial Ancestor and Qian Yin Imperial Ancestor shouted in unison, their faces ashen. Before they finished speaking, they had already rushed toward she. They had already sensed that she was the greatest threat. If they didn't stop and suppress her, this siege operation would most likely encounter unforeseen events. Leave these two old fellows to me. The two of you go and kill the others. She's voice was cold and her face was calm. Even though she was targeted by two Imperial Ancestor-level characters, she didn't panic at all. Kill! Myriad Flow Imperial Ancestor roared, his voice shaking the 9 heavens. A blood-red sword slashed out, giving birth to boundless phenomena of laws that possessed the power to annihilate all living things. At the same time, Qian Yin Imperial Ancestor activated a purple palace lantern, and a rain of fire swept toward she. As soon as the two of them attacked, they used their true power. Boom! When the battle erupted, the sky and earth shook, and the place became chaotic. What shocked everyone was that even though she was being attacked by two Imperial Ancestor-level characters, she didn't show any signs of being suppressed. Instead, as she attacked, she destroyed the attacks of the two Imperial Ancestor-level characters, causing them to reveal extremely solemn expressions. Even Huang Tsangtian and the others felt their hearts tremble and couldn't calm down. A woman was able to stop the attacks of two Imperial Ancestor-level characters. Just how terrifying was her strength? If they knew what had happened in the true dragon bloodline a while ago, perhaps they wouldn't have made such a fuss. One must know that Lin Sun, she, and the others had fought their way into the great Dao Myriad Dragon Palace. If it wasn't for the Spirit Killer Ancestor who controlled the Dragon Palace's world origin order, the true dragon bloodline probably wouldn't have been able to stop Lin Sun's group. Now, outside the Myriad Fire Imperial City, they were only fighting against two Imperial Ancestor-level characters. To she, it wasn't a serious threat at all. Kill! Big Yellow spread his 4 legs and shifted in the void. He let out a roar, and his fur was flowing with a brilliant Dao light. Bang! Before a black tortoise Imperial Ancestor could react, he was knocked out by Big Yellow's claw and kept away. That domineering and crushing attitude caused a wave of exclamations to resound in the surroundings. This time, the Black Tortoise and White Tiger clans had sent out 50 Imperial Ancestors. At least in terms of numbers, they had the absolute advantage. Soon, a group of Imperial Ancestors rushed over to deal with Big Yellow. However, Big Yellow wasn't shocked. He grinned, revealing a mouthful of sharp teeth and salivating. This can be braised, this can be steamed, this can be stir-fried, this can be deep-fried. As he commented, Big Yellow didn't slow down at all. He began his hunting. With his combat strength, he could chase after Imperial Ancestor-level characters. Why would he care about the encirclement of these Imperial Ancestor-level characters? Bang! In the blink of an eye, A white tiger with a voluptuous figure and as beautiful as a young lady was knocked unconscious by Big Yellow. "You? Boil bone soup." Bang! Before long, a fierce black tortoise clan imperial ancestor's chest was smashed to pieces. It's just a dog. How can it be so terrifying? Quick, let's attack together. All sorts of angry voices reverberated in the sky. Countless imperial ancestor-level characters rushed forward, trying to suppress Big Yellow with their advantage in numbers. But what terrified everyone was that Big Yellow didn't even wait for them to surround him. He killed one imperial ancestor after another. Those bloody scenes simply made the powerhouses of the White Tiger and Black Tortoise clans feel despair. They couldn't surround him at all. Every time they swarmed over, Big Yellow would charge out of their encirclement in an extremely domineering manner and destroy them one by one. It was extremely ferocious. This was even more shocking than the battle on Xi's side. After all, those that died were all imperial ancestor-level existences. The one that attracted the least attention on the battlefield was Xi. She was alone, her figure bathed in darkness. She carried a white bone spear and moved like an illusory ray of light. But wherever she appeared, she would use the simplest and most direct method to kill her opponents with fierce and precise attack. She would kill them in one strike and then disappear in a flash without any hesitation. In the city, Huang Tsangtian, Lian Jiuxiao, and the other immortal phoenix and divine craftsman imperial clan experts all had an interesting look on their faces. Shock, confusion, disbelief, shock, all sorts of expressions appeared on their faces. No matter what, they never imagined that Xi, and Big Yellow would create such a bloody storm outside the city. The White Tiger and Black Tortoise armies that could suffocate and make any tribe feel despair were now in a state of chaos and unrest. This time, the White Tiger and Black Tortoise armies claimed to have 800,000 soldiers, but only the 50 imperial ancestor-level existences could be used. Of course, this was already a hopeless number. But now, Emperor Ancestor Myriad Flow and Emperor Ancestor Qian Yin, these two leaders, were being held back by Xi alone. The other emperors were being attacked by Big Yellow and Xi, and there were emperors dying from time to time. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that the White Tiger and Black Tortoise armies had been completely disrupted by Xi and the others. Their casualties continued to rise. "Clan leader, let's take this opportunity to kill our way out," someone suggested excitedly, and the nearby seniors of the immortal phoenix bloodline shot their gazes towards Huang Tsangtian in unison. If they left the city to kill the enemy now, they would undoubtedly seize the best opportunity to completely defeat the enemy. Huang Tsangtian was also moved and nodded. "Indeed, we can't let the three fellow Taoists fight alone. It's time to show the power of the immortal phoenix bloodline." However, just as he was about to give the order, his expression suddenly changed and he looked into the distance. In the distance, there were many terrifying auras rushing over at an unbelievable speed. Could it be that the true strength of the White Tiger and Black Tortoise clans had arrived? Thinking of this, Huang Tsangtian's heart tightened and he immediately sent a voice transmission. "Fellow Taoists, something has happened. Please return quickly." In reality, there was no need to remind them. When Huang Tsangtian sensed that something had happened, Xi, Big Yellow, and Xi had also sensed it. "Let's go." She frowned and made a decision without any hesitation. Big Yellow had fallen into a frenzy of hunting, and was still a little unsatisfied. However, seeing that Xi and she had already left, he could only leave helplessly. The reluctance in his eyes made his opponents feel ashamed and resentful. P.S. From next week on, there will be a wave of explosive updates. Let's wait and see. Chapter 2376. Xi, and Big Yellow's sudden withdrawal from the battlefield surprised Myriad Flow and Qian Yin. In fact, they'd already sensed something was wrong when they were fighting Xi. Especially when they noticed Big Yellow and Xi killing the martial emperors, their faces were livid with anger. They were shocked, afraid, and even in disbelief. Even if they didn't want to admit it, they deduced that if this situation continued, the black tortoise and white tiger armies would be defeated in less than a quarter of an hour. Fortunately, that didn't happen. The retreat of Xie, and Big Yellow surprised them. However, they quickly understood what was going on, and they all looked into the distance. At this moment, the entire battlefield was alarmed. Whether it was the black tortoise and white tiger armies outside the city or Huang Tsangtian and the others inside the city, they all looked in the same direction. The setting sun was like blood. It was dusk. The fiery sunset enveloped the myriad Fire Emperor city, emitting a solemn and sacred aura. Towering ancient buildings, beautiful mountains, and rivers flowed with a golden luster under the setting sun. It was dreamlike, grand, and vast. Boom! The tranquility was soon broken. The earth shook and the void was filled with a murderous aura. A group of people teleported over from afar, like dark clouds pressing down on the city. Every one of them had a supreme divine aura. Their bodies were enveloped in martial emperor divine radiance. They were like sovereigns that had descended, patrolling the mountains and rivers, sweeping away all obstacles. Behind them were rows of cultivators. When they gathered together, they were like dragons emerging from the abyss. Just the aura they emitted was enough to throw the winds and clouds into disorder. There were dozens of figures at the front. There were men and women, old and young. All of their auras were peerlessly powerful. They were a group of martial emperor existences. At the front were two men. One wore a white robe and had cold eyes. His thin figure was like a lonely mountain that shot into the sky. He emitted a monstrous and terrifying killing intent. By Lingzhen. His title was Killer Emperor Lingzhen, the patriarch of the White Tiger bloodline. Beside him stood an emaciated old man with sparse hair, who seemed to have one foot in the grave, wrinkles crisscrossed on his face, and his pair of glossy jade-green pupils were deep and terrifying. Martial Cultivator Punishment. Known as the Xiuxing Martial Emperor, he was the clan leader of the Black Tortoise lineage. The two of them were like overlords in their respective worlds, and they were leading a group of old-timers from their respective sects and clans. This scene caused the faces of Huang Tsangtian and the others to turn extremely dark and solemn. Are they going to launch an all-out attack? The world fell into a deathly silence. It was a shocking scene. Whether it was the members of the Immortal Phoenix bloodline or the elites of the Divine Craftsman Imperial clan, all of them felt their hearts palpitate. The enemy's lineup was too terrifying. The disparity between their strengths was too great. The arrival of a martial emperor was extremely majestic and rare. Moreover, there were hundreds of martial emperors gathered together. That kind of power could make any ancient orthodoxy feel hopeless. When an emperor realm expert was enraged, the sun and moon would dim, the earth would sink, and all things would fall into great terror. This was their might. Even though it was shapeless, it was sufficient to decide the fate of most living beings in the world. Normally, Emperor Realm experts couldn't be seen at all. They were mysterious and supreme existences that oversaw an area. Even though they didn't appear in the world, they intimidated everyone, making it so that enemies didn't dare invade. But now, the martial emperors of the White Tiger and Black Tortoise clans had come out in full force. This scene was like the collapse of the sky. It was uncontrollable fear. A great war was about to break out. Today, the city of Myriad Fire Emperor, and even the entire Immortal Phoenix realm was destined to undergo a great change. Greetings, clan leader. Greetings, clan leader. Emperor Wanlu and the other experts of the White Tiger bloodline, as well as Emperor Qian Yin and the other experts of the Black Tortoise bloodline, came forward to greet them with excited expressions. Reinforcements had arrived, and the situation was about to be reversed. Bai Lingzhen's gaze swept across the battlefield and couldn't help but frown. How many casualties were there in the previous battle? His words made Emperor Wanlu and the others' expressions turn unnatural. Reporting to clan leader, 9 of our clan's martial emperors have fallen. On the Black Tortoise bloodline side, 11 martial emperors have fallen. In addition, more than 10 Dao pattern grandmasters have perished. Someone said in a low voice. Bai Lingzhen, Wu Xiuxing, and the others who had just arrived were stunned. They almost couldn't believe their ears. What's going on? Bai Lingzhen's eyes surged with divine light, his expression icy. Emperor Wanlu sighed deeply, not daring to hide anything. He could only tell the truth. 2 women and a dog? Bai Lingzhen's face turned ashen when he learned the truth. He wasn't the only one. Wu Xiuxing and the others' faces were dark as well. 2 women and a dog had nearly defeated the allied army led by Emperor Wanlu and Qian Yin. Who could believe it? The atmosphere outside the city became extremely oppressive. Bai Lingzhen, Wu Xiuxing, and the others' gazes turned to the myriad Fire Emperor city in the distance, their eyes filled with cold, killing intent. Huang Tsangtian, surrender now and I will give your immortal phoenix bloodline a chance to live. Otherwise, not only will this city be trampled, your immortal phoenix bloodline will be uprooted. Bai Lingzhen's indifferent voice resounded through the sky like a clap of thunder. Inside the city, Huang Tsangtian's expression was cold. He said emotionlessly, Bai Lingzhen, my immortal phoenix bloodline is not one to be scared of. If we fight to the death, it's not certain who will survive. In 3 days, the 7th elder of the Permitha Luo clan will arrive personally. Your immortal phoenix bloodline. Are you really going to resist? Wu Xiuxing's aged face was filled with mockery. Look outside the city again. The allied army of the Black Tortoise and White Tiger clans is gathered here. With your immortal phoenix bloodline strength, it's like an egg hitting a stone, a mantis trying to stop a chariot. Old bastard, cut the crap. Come and kill us if you have the guts. Huang Tsangtian sneered. Wu Xiuxing, who was called an old bastard, was not angry at all. His expression was calm. Huang Tsangtian, you should know why we're here. I might as well tell you that your clan's progenitor must choose to surrender in order to awaken and live. Otherwise, forget about the Black Tortoise and White Tiger clans. Even the Permitha Luo clan will not allow your clan's progenitor to live. Wu Xiuxing's words resounded clearly in the sky above the myriad fire imperial city. Huang Tsangtian and the rest of the immortal phoenix bloodline's elders had ugly expressions on their faces. These bastards were here to stop their progenitor from awakening. According to what we know, your clan's progenitor had already refined the immortal phoenix realm's source of order into a divine flame of order in order to undergo a complete transformation. It's impossible for you, Huang Tsangtian, to control it anymore. Bai Lingzhen suddenly said coldly, and without such a powerful weapon, what does your immortal phoenix bloodline have to stop our attack? With this broken city that can't even withstand a single blow? His voice was filled with deep disdain. I can tell that these fellas came prepared, Big Yellow mumbled. In the true dragon world, Ancestor Spirit Slaughter could control the Dragon Palace's source of order with the Realm Suppression Orb. He could kill She and Big Yellow and force them to flee with injuries. Clearly, the power that Bai Lingzhen called the Divine Flame of Order was similar to the Realm Suppression Orb. It could control the Immortal Phoenix realm's source of order. But this Divine Flame of Order had already been refined by the Immortal Phoenix progenitor. It was destined that Huang Tsangtian and the rest would not have a chance to control it. This was also one of the reasons why Bai Lingzhen and Wu Xiuxing were so fearless. At this time, Huang Tsangtian and the rest of the Immortal Phoenix bloodline's elders were both shocked and angry. What Bai Lingzhen had said was the Immortal Phoenix bloodline's core secrets. Obviously, there was a traitor who had already leaked these core secrets. Then I might as well tell you this. Today, even if the entire Immortal Phoenix bloodline dies in battle, we will definitely not let you get what you want. Huang Tsangtian took a deep breath, his eyes filled with determination. Is that so? Then I'd like to see it for myself. Bai Lingzhen sneered. He suddenly waved his hand and said something inexplicable, Everyone, it's time for you to perform well and claim credit. Before he finished speaking, he saw. A shocking change suddenly occurred next to Huang Tsangtian. An elder of the immortal phoenix bloodline suddenly charged forward and slapped his palm towards Huang Tsangtian's back at an inconceivably fast speed. This sudden turn of events had completely exceeded everyone's expectations. Who would have dared to imagine that someone from the immortal phoenix bloodline would actually betray Huang Tsangtian at this moment? Bang! In an instant, Huang Tsangtian was slapped flying, and he coughed up blood. Just as he was about to be captured alive by the elder, she's figure suddenly flashed, and divine light spread out with a wave of her slender hand. Boom! The old antique staggered backward, but before he could regain his footing, Big Yellow slapped him to the ground with its paw and suppressed him. Third Elder, you actually betrayed the clan? Damn it! How dare you be so ruthless? Exclamations resounded in the surroundings as they recognized that the person who'd launched a sneak attack on Huang Tsangtian was the Third Elder, Huang Yudao, an 8th-level Emperor Realm senior. Huang Tsangtian finally came to his senses. His face was livid, and his eyes were about to spit fire. Third Elder, why did you do this? Huang Yudao roared hoarsely. Even now, you still don't understand that only by surrendering to the Permitha Luo family will our clan have a chance of survival. I'm doing this for the sake of the clan. There was an uproar, and everyone's faces were ashen and ugly. Even she, Big Yellow, and Xia Ji hadn't expected that an elder of the immortal phoenix bloodline would become a traitor at such a critical moment. But that wasn't all. Whoosh! Amidst the chaos, a flying sword suddenly shot out and beheaded Lian Qingqi before anyone could react. Huang Tsangtian and the others felt as if they'd been struck by lightning. Only now did they realize that there was another traitor in the clan besides the Third Elder, Huang Yudao. At this moment, she and Big Yellow attacked together and captured the traitor with the force of a thunderbolt. They weren't members of the immortal phoenix bloodline, so they were the calmest. As soon as the situation changed, they attacked without hesitation. When they recognized the traitor's identity, the expressions of Huang Tsangtian and the others became even more unsightly. They felt as if their hearts were being cut by knives, and they were about to go mad with rage. Fifth Elder, you've betrayed us too. Chapter 2377. The Fifth Elder's name was Huang Tsanghai. The reason why everyone was shocked and enraged was because Huang Tsanghai was Patriarch Huang Tsangtian's younger brother. However, Huang Tsanghai had betrayed them and beheaded Lian Qingqi right away. Lian Qingqi was not only a world-renowned Dao pattern grandmaster, but he was also in charge of controlling and operating the restriction array of the Myriad Fire Imperial City. If he died, the city would be in danger. Bastard! Huang Tsangtian's veins bulged on his forehead. He unsheathed his sword and was about to behead Huang Tsanghai when he was stopped by the old antiques nearby. Clan leader, you can't. The Fifth Elder might be under the enemy's control. Huang Tsangtian was firmly blocked, but Huang Tsanghai seemed to have thrown caution to the wind. He laughed hoarsely and said, "Big brother, just kill me. In your hands, our immortal phoenix bloodline will be destroyed anyway. What's the difference between dying sooner or later?" You! Huang Tsangtian's murderous intent flared up. His eyes were bloodshot. The enemy's army was already at the city gates and the situation was already precarious. But at this time, their internal strife was the first to occur. This was undoubtedly adding hail to snow. Outside the city, Bai Lingzhen, Wu Xiuxing, and the others laughed mockingly and disdainfully. The White Tiger and Black Tortoise armies behind them also laughed. Their laughter reverberated through the sky like a tidal wave. Inside the city, the immortal phoenix bloodline and the divine craftsman imperial clan's experts looked gloomy and trembled with anger. Traitors and spies are often more detestable than the enemy. Big Yellow sighed. If what I said is true, and they dared to help the enemy without any regard for their lives, why not kill them? No. Many people objected. thinking that Huang Yudao and Huang Canghai's betrayal must be because they had their own reasons. Huang Tsangtian was also hesitant. Big Yellow snorted, "The enemy is right in front of us. If we don't kill the two of them, how will we have the morale to stop the enemy's attack?" Many people glared at Big Yellow. This was their immortal phoenix bloodline's matter. How could outsiders interfere? Swoosh! Suddenly, Huang Tsangtian swung his sword, and before anyone could react, Huang Canghai's head was chopped off. Blood splattered all over him. Everyone was dumbfounded. This was the Patriarch's younger brother, yet he was personally executed by the Patriarch. No matter who it is, the traitor should die. Huang Tsangtian was expressionless, but his eyes were terrifyingly cold. He looked at Third Elder Huang Yu and said, "This seat is too lazy to ask for the reason. From the moment you betrayed us, you deserved to die." "You, how dare you?" Huang Yudao was dumbfounded. He had thought that the worst outcome would be him being imprisoned. Who would have thought that Huang Tsangtian would be so ruthless? Whoosh! With a flash of light, Huang Yudao was killed on the spot before he could even finish speaking. Before he died, his face was filled with panic and disbelief. "In a moment of life and death, I do not wish to use the sword in my hand to slash at my own clansmen." Huang Tsangtian's expression was indifferent. At this moment, the immortal phoenix lineage and the divine craftsman imperial clan were all stunned. Boom! All of a sudden, the restrictive formation around the city of 10,000 flames shook. It turned out that the White Tiger and Black Tortoise armies outside the city had launched a new round of attack. Bai Lingzhen and Wu Xiuxing led the old monsters of their respective clans to attack together. There were more than 100 martial emperors, and the power they unleashed was like a heavenly river that had burst its banks. The earth collapsed, and all things were destroyed. The restrictive formation around the city of 10,000 flames shook violently, as if it would collapse at any moment. Without Lian Qingqi, Lian Jiuxiao and the other old monsters of the Divine Craftsman Imperial Clan could only maintain the restrictive formation's operation. They all looked anxious and said, "Lord, we can't hold on much longer." Huang Tsangtian's expression flickered. After a while, he asked, "Have the younger generation of the clan settled down?" Everyone nodded. "Then it doesn't matter." At this moment, Huang Tsangtian seemed to have thrown caution to the wind. He said calmly, "Our only hope lies with the founding ancestor. Is everyone willing to fight with this seat until the end?" Yes. Everyone agreed loudly, and their expressions were resolute. Huang Tsangtian laughed, "Good. Today, we old bones will fight with vigor. We'd rather die standing than live kneeling." His voice was full of heroism. However, the sounds of the people attacking the city grew more and more rapid. They rumbled like thunderclaps, and they were like notes that pressed for death, causing them to feel an oppressive feeling that caused them to feel despair. Huang Tsangtian looked at Shi and the others. "My 3 friends, please return to the divine workshop. The last line of defense is in your hand." Due to the betrayal, Huang Tsangtian didn't even dare to trust the clansmen around him. "Are we really going to fight to the death?" she asked. Huang Tsangtian smiled. "Why not?" Shi Qing glanced outside the city and said, "Although there are more than 100 martial emperors outside the city, there are only 19 martial emperors at the martial emperor realm. As long as we deal with these 19, they are destined to lose this battle." Everyone was stunned. Of course, they knew that she was right, but the key was, there were 19 martial emperors. Just one of them could unleash destructive power, let alone 19 of them. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that among martial emperors were definitely at the top of the pyramid. They could look down on all other martial emperors. Looking at the deity Phoenix bloodline and the divine workshop imperial clan, they only had 6 martial emperors. They were at a disadvantage in terms of numbers. Of course, even if they added Shi and Big Yellow, it wouldn't be enough. Just when everyone thought that she had spouted a bunch of nonsense, she spoke again. If I go all out, I can restrain 5 to 7 martial emperors. Everyone couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air, their hearts pounding. The meaning behind Shi's words was too frightening. However, when they recalled the battle between Shi, Wanlu, and Qian Yin, the two emperor ancestors, they vaguely felt that Shi was not someone who boasted. Big Yellow hesitated for a while, then said hesitantly, at most, maybe. I should be able to restrain 3? It seemed to have no confidence at all, which made everyone doubt it. Big Yellow was infuriated by their doubtful gazes. It snorted and said, 2 is definitely not a problem, and 3 is definitely not a problem. Even if there's a problem, I can help you, Shiaji said. Regardless of whether Shi, Big Yellow, and Shiaji could do it, their attitude still moved Huang Tsangtian and the others. At the moment of life and death, outsiders like them stood up to fight the enemy with them. Compared to the betrayal of the 3rd elder and the 5th elder, how could they not be moved? Thank you. Huang Tsangtian bowed. Huang Tsangtian bowed. The other elders of the deity Phoenix bloodline and the Divine Workshop Imperial clan also bowed. This made Big Yellow a little embarrassed. He coughed and said, "Don't think too much. We're doing this to help Lin Sun." Now that Lin Sun was refining his life imperial weapon in the Divine Workshop, there would definitely be an accident if the enemy attacked him. From this point of view, Big Yellow was right. Boom, the enemy's attack became more and more fierce, and the Prohibition formation of the City of Fire was on the verge of collapse. If you don't want the enemy to take advantage of the chaos and attack the Divine Workshop when the city is breached, you'd better kill your way out of the city now. As he spoke, Shi was the first to move. He rushed out of the city in a graceful manner, as if he didn't feel a trace of panic at all. Shiaji and Big Yellow followed closely. His calm and indifferent attitude made everyone's blood boil. Without hesitation, they rushed out of the city together. Kill! At this point, we can't care about anything else. Let's kill to our heart's content first. Let's go! Huang Tsangtian also rushed out of the city with a group of elders of the deity Phoenix bloodline. Lian Jiuxiao of the Divine Workshop Imperial clan and a group of elders stayed behind to operate and maintain the Prohibition formation in the city. They actually killed their way out? Bai Ling was surprised. Even a dog will jump over a wall when it's cornered. I can only say that they know they're going to lose and are making their last struggle. Wu Xiuxing smiled indifferently. Although they said that, their reactions were not slow. In fact, the moment Shi and the others appeared, they were already targeted by them. Boom, a great battle erupted without any suspense, and it caused this expanse of the heavens and the earth to fall into unrest. Surging torrents of the Tao carried all sorts of imperial weapons as they swept through the heavens and the earth, and dazzling and blazing divine radiance exploded incessantly. Such a scene simply seemed like the end of the world had arrived. At the same time, in the secret realm of the Divine Workshop A1, the tribulation lightning rumbled and poured down like a waterfall of the Milky Way. It seemed as if it wouldn't stop until the imperial weapon that hadn't been refined was destroyed. The Emperor of Fire, whose body was integrated into the Fire of Tao, also felt great pressure at this time. He even suffered injuries while helping Lin Sun to refine weapons and fight against the divine punishment. How could this tribulation be so terrible? At this time, the Emperor of Fire couldn't calm down. At the beginning, she had witnessed the tribulation suffered by the Mother Furnace when it was refining the 9 Emperor weapons of Kunlun. At that time, the Mother Furnace had to sacrifice itself to protect the 9 Emperor weapons of Kunlun. But the power of that great tribulation was far less terrible than the tribulation Lin Sun encountered at this time. Not only was it more powerful, but it was also extremely strange. It seemed that the tribulation would not end until this treasure was destroyed. At this time, Lin Sun looked unprecedentedly dignified, and his face was pale and almost transparent. The refining had reached the last critical moment, but because of the constant obstruction of the thunder, The weapon embryo that had been refined in the fire of Tao could not complete the last step of transformation. Boom! Suddenly, an unusual roar sounded in the depths of the tribulation cloud. A gray tribulation light, shining with a strange taboo luster, was gradually condensing and taking shape. At first glance, the Emperor of Fire was so shocked that his scalp was numb. He cried out involuntarily, "Is this the legendary tribulation light of annihilation? P.S. It will start to break out tomorrow and last for 3 days with 4 updates a day." Genius 1 Second Remember website. Mobile version. Chapter 2378. It was rumored that at the beginning of the birth of chaos, there were 3 great calamity lights. They were Tao annihilation, spirit severing, and God forbidding. The 3 great calamity lights had incredible power, like the Tao annihilation tribulation light. Once it appeared, everything that was touched by this light, whether it was a person or an object, would be completely erased. As far as the 10,000 Flames Emperor knew, the Tao annihilation tribulation light was a peerless calamity that targeted the Emperor weapon, which was rare since ancient times. Lin Sun also felt a chill in his heart. The gray calamity light that was constantly condensing in the depths of the tribulation cloud was flashing with an incomparably strange aura, which was obviously completely different from the previous tribulation thunder. And now it was the most critical moment of his weapon refining. Once he crossed it, the weapon embryo would be completely formed, and the final transformation would occur. He stepped over, all the previous efforts would be erased. Swish! The gray thunder that was suspected to be the Tao annihilation tribulation light finally took shape, like a wisp of ethereal flowing light, falling from the depths of the tribulation cloud. The myriad wonderful Tao fire surged, and the 10,000 Flames Emperor went all out, steaming an extremely dazzling and magnificent flame. But the strange thing was that it didn't block the slightest bit, and the gray calamity light silently passed through the power released by the 10,000 Flames Emperor. Not good. The 10,000 Flames Emperor's expression changed completely. Seeing that the gray calamity light was about to fall into the furnace formed by the myriad wonderful Tao fire, at this extremely dangerous moment, a chain of order suddenly appeared out of thin air. This divine chain of order was condensed from purple flames. It was sparkling and translucent, overflowing with the primordial light of order and natural order. As it gently twirled, the gray calamity light was heavily bound and imprisoned, and then it was smelted by the chain of order, burning and breaking inch by inch, turning into a misty rain of light, drifting into the myriad wonderful Tao fire. The 10,000 Flames Emperor was completely stunned. The Order Phoenix Flame? How could the 10,000 Flames Emperor not recognize this power that was refined by the original order of the deity Phoenix realm? However, she didn't expect that at this last moment, the ancestor of the deity Phoenix, who had not yet completely awakened and transformed from nirvana, would choose to take action. Moreover, she didn't hesitate to use the Order Phoenix Flame. Are you crazy? I've been protecting you for countless years. I won't let you fail at the last moment of your awakening. Spirit Emperor of all fires sent a voice transmission, almost hysterical. In the deepest depths of the sea of flames beneath the secret realm, a low and indistinct voice sounded out from within the enormous egg that was fiery red. My rebirth should be accomplished by myself. These external forces are the final shackles to me instead. Instead of that, why don't I fulfill his wish? The myriad flames' spiritual emperor wanted to say something, but with a boom, she felt a sharp pain in her consciousness. She saw that the phoenix flame of order was disintegrating inch by inch, melting into drops of crystal-clear liquid, and pouring into the cauldron formed by the fire of wonders. Every single drop of liquid that descended was like a lifelike immortal phoenix flapping its wings and fluttering about, and its clear cry resounded through the 9 heavens. You. Myriad Fire Spirit Emperor was incoherent, completely dumbfounded. Previously, when the immortal Phoenix first ancestor used the Order Phoenix flame to dissolve the Tao Annihilation Calamity Light, she was unable to remain calm and was about to go crazy. But now, when she saw the power of the Order Phoenix flame pouring into the Fire of Wonders, she was about to go crazy. This was the original power that the immortal Phoenix first ancestor needed for the last step of transformation. If there was no Order Phoenix flame, how could she talk about nirvana and transformation? Boom! The Fire of Wonders roared completely, releasing endless flames, soaring into the sky, and actually incinerating the tribulation clouds all over the sky. That kind of aura was too terrifying, completely beyond Lin Sun's imagination, and he couldn't help but be stunned. In fact, at this moment, he could no longer control the Fire of Wonders, and could only watch all these incredible scenes unfold. Boom! Until later, the myriad Fire Spirit Emperor turned into a flame and whistled out, standing on one side and watching. Her expression was uncertain, and her mood was turbulent, unable to calm down. This crafting was definitely unprecedented. First, he smelted the 9 Emperor weapons of Kunlun and dozens of magical Emperor weapons as divine materials. Then, he used Lin Sun's power of the Great Way as the formation map, and his own method as the Tao pattern, and integrated it into the tool embryo, until later, it caused an unprecedented disaster, and even forced the myriad Fire Spirit Emperor to take action, so that he could hold on until now. Until the legendary Light of Calamity appeared, which made the myriad Fire Spirit Emperor helpless. He thought that this refining was too heaven-defying and violated some taboo, and was doomed to fail. Who would have thought that at the last moment, the immortal Phoenix first ancestor resolved the Light of Calamity with the power of the Order Phoenix flame. In the end, not only the power of the Light of Calamity was integrated into Lin Sun's life weapon, but also the Order Phoenix flame turned into an original power, and became a part of the original Emperor weapon. This series of changes could be said to be hair-raising and unimaginable. It had also caused the crafting process to be completely different. At the very least, in the past years, there had never been a life monarch weapon being forged that could cause so many shocking changes. There was only one thought left in the myriad Fire Spirit Emperor's mind: under such an incredible series of changes, what will the final refined life weapon look like? At the same time, Lin Sun's mood was also fluctuating like a surging tide. He never expected that there would be so many changes at the end of a refining operation. Especially the scenes that happened at the end, which completely caught him off guard, and he could only watch. But he could still judge that this refining was successful. Boom! At this moment, a heart-shaking roar of the Great Way resounded, like the birth of chaos, vast and heavy as the creation of the world. Then, the wonderful Tao fire tumbled, as if it was under absolute suppression, producing a violent buzzing sound. A dazzling treasure light emerged from the wonderful Tao fire inch by inch. Every inch it appeared caused this secret realm world to tremble and sway once, and the glow of treasures that suffused the sky grew slightly stronger. Later, the sound was like thunder, and the treasure light was like a tide, which made the secret realm world tremble, and a heart-palpitating aura spread. Finally, the All-Fire Spirit Emperor saw the natal Emperor weapon that was born among the many variables. At first glance, she was shocked. At the same time, in the deepest part of the sky above the number 1 divine workshop, all kinds of incomparably wonderful phenomena emerged. There were flowers of the Great Way blooming, billions of divine lights pouring down like waterfalls, auspicious and sacred sounds ringing, and the images of the starry sky floating and sinking, and the inconceivable scenes seemed to be describing the supreme profundities of the grand Tao. In the end, the phenomenon turned into a cauldron, surrounded by billions of divine lights, endless flowers of the Tao, and ethereal sounds of nature, and this cauldron suppressed the ancient starry sky and became the only immortal and eternal thing in the endless years. Such a scene had even alarmed all the terrifying existences that were engaged in intense battle far away outside the city. No matter if it was Xie Ji, Huang Tsangtian, or the seniors of the White Tiger and Black Tortoise clans, all of them acutely noticed this scene. Has Lin Sun succeeded in refining his life's sovereign weapon? Xie Ji, and Goldie had the same thought. Could it be that our ancestor has awakened? Huang Tsangtian and the others trembled, thinking that such an earth-shattering phenomenon was very likely a sign of the awakening of the ancestor of immortal Phoenix. This is definitely not a good thing. On the other hand, the eyes of Bai Lingzhen, Wu Xiuxing, and the other old fellows of White Tiger and Black Tortoise flickered, and they were slightly surprised and bewildered in their hearts. They similarly wondered if the ancestor of immortal Phoenix that had been silent since time immemorial was about to undergo nirvana and awaken. However, before the two sides of the battle could sense it carefully, the phenomenon of the cauldron that appeared in the depths of the sky suddenly transformed into a Taoist sword. What kind of Taoist sword was it? It was simply like the incarnation of order, peerlessly sharp. Chaotic and eternal chi flowed on the blade of the sword, and it crushed the starry sky, threw the void into disorder, and seemed to be able to break through the shackles of boundless space and sever everything that had existed since time immemorial. Bang! Everyone felt a piercing pain in their eyes while their souls felt as if they were being sliced, and a wave of palpitation and coldness surged in their hearts. When they sobered up, the phenomenon in the sky had already vanished. It seemed as if everything they'd seen earlier was an illusion. But everyone was clearly aware that all of it was real. Kill! Quickly kill your way into the city! Bai Lingzhen's roar shook the heavens and the earth. Originally, Xi's group and Huang Tsangtian's group were in a situation of being besieged. Although it wasn't fatal, they still felt great pressure. After all, their opponents were a total of 19 emperor ancestors. How could such a siege be ordinary? If Xi hadn't taken on the attacks of so many emperor ancestors by himself, their situation would have become extremely serious. At this moment, along with Bai Lingzhen's order, the attacks of the White Tiger clan and the Black Tortoise clan became even more frenzied. Under the all-out attacks of over 100 Emperor Realm experts, the restrictive formation that covered the surroundings of the 10,000 fire imperial city finally couldn't hold on and collapsed. For a time, a rain of light flew and whistled like a tide. The huge 10,000 fire imperial city was no longer obstructed. The expressions of Huang Tsangtian and the others changed. Once the formation was broken, the divine workshop was in danger. Since things have come to this, we'll do our best and leave the rest to fate. Don't let your state of mind be affected. Big Yellow shouted. He was worried that Huang Tsangtian and the others' fighting spirit would be shaken and they would fall into disorder. Huang Tsangtian took a deep breath and realized the seriousness of the problem. His eyes turned red and he roared hoarsely, "Kill! Fight them to the death!" Rumble, the battle became more and more intense. It could even be described as tragic. Without the protection of the Grand Formation, the vast, majestic, and magnificent myriad fire imperial city was like a piece of rotten wood that couldn't withstand a single blow. It rumbled and collapsed, and countless streets and buildings were instantly turned into ashes. No one cared about the destruction of the city, because at this moment, the armies of the White Tiger clan and the Black Tortoise clan rushed into the 10,000 fire imperial city like a tide and started a massacre against the Immortal Phoenix clan and the Divine Workshop imperial clan. It was impossible to stop them. Whether it was Xie Ji, Big Yellow, or Huang Tsangtian, they were firmly pinned down by Bai Lingzhen, Wu Xiuxing, and other terrifying characters. They were destined to be unable to free themselves to stop all of this. What was more worrying was that after the city was breached, many Emperor Realm experts from the White Tiger clan and the Black Tortoise clan had already taken the opportunity to rush into the Divine Workshop A1. At this moment, the situation had reached an extremely perilous state. P.S. The first update is here. There will be another 2 updates before 7 p.m. In addition, Goldfish is playing a game of adding update. If you follow Goldfish's WeChat, you will add one more update on top of the previous 4 updates. Currently, Goldfish, if you want Goldfish to add updates but don't have an official account, please open it. Remember to search for the Official Account option, then enter Zyajinu233 and follow me. The above nonsense is free. Chapter 2379. Lin soon didn't know how great a sensation the phenomenon caused by the refining had caused outside the City of Fire. At this time, he stared at the natal emperor weapon that emerged from the fire of Tao and revealed a touch of shock. It was a tripod with 3 feet and 2 ears, and it was suffused with eternal, immortal, and sacred vast and heavy chi. The wall of the tripod was covered with the power of the Great Way like a dragon, which interweaved into a light rain of law, flowing and fluttering, and evolved into various wonderful phenomena, such as the sun, moon, stars, mountains, rivers, all living things, the passage of time, the ups and downs of the world, and the changes of all phenomena. It was just a tripod, but it seemed to contain the mysteries of the whole world, which was extremely amazing. In the mouth of the tripod, the light rain was like a waterfall, and a kind of symbol derived from Taoism emerged and flickered in it, as if it was deducing all the laws in the world. This cauldron was too inconceivable. When looked at from afar, it didn't seem like an imperial weapon, and it seemed like the embodiment of the Grand Tao instead. It caused one to feel shocked and feel a supreme, imposing aura assault the face. It floated in the void, and the whole secret realm trembled and shook. The nearby void buzzed as if it was surrendering. There are other mysteries in this tripod, Wanhua Ling Huang murmured in a dreamy voice, and her white eyebrows were completely filled with shock and amazement. She clearly sensed that an extremely terrifying and fierce aura was hidden within the immortal furnace. It was like a peerless blade that was sealed within the 9 abysses, and so long as it was unsheathed, it would be able to tear the heavens apart. Sure enough, the next moment, a terrible phenomenon appeared in the tripod, and a sword shadow that was misty like chaos appeared. Although it was just a sword shadow, it had unparalleled and sharp chi, which seemed to be able to crush the starry sky and cut off all the things in the world. Wanhua Ling Huang gave a muffled groan, and her eyes were stinging. Her mind seemed to be cut sharply. This caused her to feel even more shock. It's only a sword image that's revealed itself, yet it possesses such unbelievable might. So, if the sword hidden within the cauldron were to truly emerge into the world, then exactly how terrifying would its might be? At the same time, after staring at it for a while, Lin Sun suddenly had an indescribable feeling in his heart, as if the furnace in the distance was part of his cultivation. As long as he thought about it, he could control it like his arm and make it perform all kinds of power. Come here. Lin Sun waved. The cauldron in the distance swiftly transformed into a flowing light that descended into his palm. The radiance it emanated was restrained while the glow of the Tao dispersed, and it revealed its original and simple appearance. Only the interior of the furnace seethed with primal chaos and faintly flowed with divine flames, causing it to seem extremely mysterious. However, Lin Sun sensed that a Taoist sword was being nurtured within the furnace. It was hidden deep within the chaos, and it was being nourished by strands of strange purple flames, causing it to seem extremely mysterious. Seeing this, Lin Sun's tense heart was completely relaxed as if relieved of a heavy burden. A cauldron to nurture the Tao sword. This was the refining plan that Lin Sun finally finalized after countless conceptions and deductions at the beginning of refining. His great Tao root was like primal chaos, like a furnace, like a cauldron, unprecedented throughout the ages, the only one in the heavens. The Tao art he created was called the Grand Tao Furnace Scripture, and it was deduced and condensed from his cultivation. It could accommodate a myriad of Taos in the world and develop a myriad of techniques in the world. Even after he became an emperor, his soul and will were condensed into a cauldron, which was like an immortal and eternal weapon, sitting in his sea of consciousness. At the beginning, Lin Sun's first idea was to refine a cauldron as a life emperor weapon, so that it could be most suitable for his cultivation. However, after countless deliberations and considerations, he had a new idea. The cauldron could suppress the myriad of worlds in the world. Although it had the power of both offense and defense, its core was to accommodate a myriad of Daos and control a myriad of technique. If he could nurture a Taoist sword in the cauldron, it would be completely different. Sword was the sharpest weapon in the world. Swordsmanship was the most murderous way in the world. Nurturing a Taoist sword in the cauldron was undoubtedly equivalent to supplementing the cauldron's offensive and murderous power. In short, the life emperor weapon that Lin Sun had always admired was capable of both offense and defense. Offense was invincible. Defense was unshakable. The cauldron in front of him perfectly deduced this unique power. The cauldron could suppress both ancient and modern times, and the Taoist sword nurtured in the cauldron was unparalleled. This cauldron could be called Sword Cauldron. The most mysterious thing was that the cauldron was like a scabbard, nurturing the Taoist sword in it, and presenting a complementary whole with the Taoist sword. At the same time, Lin Sun noticed that the Taoist sword in the cauldron was being nurtured by wisps of purple divine flame, but it was also sealed. The wisps of purple divine flame were like a layer of chains of order, imprisoning the power of the Taoist sword. If not, the power possessed by the sword would not be as strong as it was now. This made Lin Sun stunned. He remembered that at the last moment of refining, it was the orderly purple divine flame that dissolved the gray light of catastrophe. Now, after the gray light of catastrophe was dissolved, the power had already been integrated into the sword cauldron, and the purple divine flame formed a shackle around the Taoist sword. At this time, Wanhua Ling Huang's eyes became complicated. She had already been reminded by the ancestor of a mortal phoenix and understood the mystery of Lin Sun's sword cauldron. After a while, she said, "That is the original power of the world of immortal phoenix realm, which was refined into the order phoenix flame by the ancestor of immortal phoenix. It is the order phoenix flame that helped you dissolve the power of the annihilation light of catastrophe at the last moment." Lin Sun could not help but be surprised. Order phoenix flame. The original power of order of the world. Lin Sun was no stranger to this kind of power. At that time, he had personally controlled the original order of the world of Nirvana. Just like the Pearl of Suppression, controlled by Ao Xingtong now, it was also the original power of order of the Dragon Palace world. But Lin Sun did not expect that it was the Order Phoenix Flame that helped him to successfully refine his life imperial weapon, and the original power of the world had been integrated into his imperial weapon, turning into a seal that nourished and nurtured the Taoist sword in the cauldron. According to Wanhua Ling Huang, in the future, the more Order Phoenix Flame that the sword cauldron could absorb, the more terrifying its power would be. After all, the Order Phoenix Flame belonged to the original power of the world of immortal Phoenix realm. How could its power be ordinary? When Lin Sun calmed down, he realized a problem. Has the ancestor of immortal Phoenix awakened from Nirvana? Wanhua Ling Huang shook his head. There is still one last step. She did not tell Lin Sun that the Order Phoenix Flame was originally a force for the ancestor of immortal Phoenix to carry out the final transformation. Now, without the help of this force, whether the ancestor of immortal Phoenix could survive the final transformation. It was the same problem. Now that your life imperial weapon has been successfully refined, take advantage of the time to restore your own strength before the enemy comes. Wanhua Ling Huang sighed softly. Enemy? Lin Sun's black eyes narrowed slightly. He turned over his palm, and the sword cauldron quietly swept into his body, sitting in the life imperial realm. He sat cross-legged on the ground and began to meditate. Time is pressing, let me give you a hand. Wanhua Ling Huang waved his sleeve, and a crystal-clear torrent of chaos, like a waterfall, shrouded Lin Sun's figure. In an instant, the torrent of chaos poured into Lin Sun's limbs and bones, glowing with incomparable vitality. His tired and exhausted body also recovered at an incredible speed. This surprised Lin Sun. What a powerful force of chaos! He could even feel that his cultivation was constantly rising at a speed visible to the naked eye. Concentrate on cultivation, don't waste the power of the chaotic divine essence. The voice of Wanhua Ling Huang sounded, and Lin Sun realized that what he was absorbing and refining at this moment was the chaotic divine essence that was enough to make the ancestors crazy. He didn't dare to think any more and refined it with all his strength. The silence and nirvana of the ages, in the end, helped this boy. What on earth are you thinking? At the same time, Wanhua Ling Huang transmitted his voice and expressed his doubts. In the deepest part of the sea of fire under the secret realm, the giant egg surrounded by purple phoenix flames, a low and ethereal voice sounded. I've said it before. After experiencing nirvana for countless years, I've completely understood that if I want to take the last step of transformation, I must abandon the help of external objects. In other words, the Order Phoenix Flames are the final barrier that hinders me from carrying out the transformation. Now, I can use this thing to help the legitimate son of Luo Qingxuan. I only feel gratified, and there is no reluctance in my heart. This may be the will of the heavens. After listening, Wanhua Ling Huang couldn't help frowning, but if you fail, won't these countless years of nirvana be in vain? Ancestor of Deity Phoenix said, No, I have already felt that this nirvana is far from over, but the way of nirvana will completely change, become more mysterious and unknown. If I succeed, my cultivation will surpass my peers from ancient to modern times. If I fail, it's nothing more than being lost in the unknown nirvana. These words were full of indescribable obscure mystery, which made Wanhua Ling Huang stunned. A new road of nirvana? Surpass his peers from ancient to modern times? What did this mean? Hua Ling, can you do me one last favor? The voice of Ancestor of Deity Phoenix sounded. Wanhua Ling Huang glanced at Lin Sun, and with a flash, he rushed into the deepest part of the sea of fire in the secret realm. Looking at the giant egg surrounded by purple flames, he said, no matter what you ask, I will help you. Ancestor of Deity Phoenix said, For countless years you have been with me, guarding me. Now I only hope that I can do something for you. Next, don't refuse. Before the voice fell, a magnificent purple flame suddenly emerged from the giant purple egg, shrouding the figure of Wanhua Ling Huang. Wanhua Ling Huang's expression suddenly changed, and he cried out involuntarily, This is your cultivation. How can you give it all to me? No, I don't want it. But no matter how she struggled, the purple divine fire had been covering her figure, and she couldn't break free. The voice of Ancestor of Deity Phoenix sounded with a smile, Only by cutting off the karma of the previous life can there be a new nirvana. Hua Ling, you and I have known each other since ancient times. In the future, with my cultivation continuing to accompany you and protect you, I can also be completely relieved. Wanhua Ling Huang's eyes were red, his whole body was trembling, and his emotions were completely out of control. This guy was still as overbearing as before. He didn't even give me a chance to refuse. Chapter 2380. In a short period of time, Lin Sun's cultivation had soared to the perfected third stage Emperor realm, but he had only refined half of the chaotic divine essence given by the All-Fire Spirit Emperor. It was not without reason that the chaotic divine essence was coveted by the Emperor Ancestor realm. If this situation continued, Lin Sun was sure that it would not take long for him to have a breakthrough. However, at this moment, there was a violent tremor at the entrance of the secret realm, as if it had suffered an extremely terrifying impact. Lin Sun immediately woke up from his meditation and opened his eyes. An invisible and supreme pressure emanated from his body. Loka, he looked into the distance. Loka had been standing there for the past few days, witnessing how Lin Sun refined the natal emperor weapon. Needless to say, she was shocked. When she heard Lin Sun's call, she woke up from her chaotic thoughts. "Brother Lin, what's the matter?" "The enemy is here, it's not safe to stay here any longer. I'll have to trouble you for a while." As Lin Sun spoke, he stood up and waved his sleeve. A ray of Tao light appeared and wrapped around Loka's figure, bringing her into the Tower of Endless. Boom! The entrance of the secret realm also cracked at this moment, and a terrifying ray of Tao light poured in like a flood. Accompanying it was a group of figures with terrifying auras. They were all Emperor Realm figures from the Black Tortoise clan and the White Tiger clan. "Quick, this is the resting place of the first ancestor of the Immortal Phoenix clan. Destroy this place, and the first ancestor of the Immortal Phoenix clan will not be able to succeed in Nirvana." Someone shouted excitedly. "You're alone here?" Many people looked at Lin Sun, their eyes overflowing with murderous intent. More people were sizing up the secret realm, as if trying to find the hiding place of the first ancestor of the Immortal Phoenix clan. "Cut the crap, kill him first!" Someone couldn't help but want to attack, but was stopped by a sage-like elder in a Taoist robe. "Oh right, you must be Lin Daoyuan. I've heard of your name before coming here." The elder in a Taoist robe stared at Lin Sun and said. The old man in the Taoist robe stared at Lin Sun and said, "Now, as you can see, the city of infinite fire has been breached. It won't be long before the Immortal Phoenix bloodline will be removed from the world. If you want to live, it's better to submit to my Black Tortoise bloodline. I promise to give you the best treatment." The other emperors realized Lin Sun's identity as well. They stared at him like he was the most tempting prey in the world. Lin Daoyuan, a legendary armament refiner who had caused a sensation in the Immortal Phoenix realm not long ago. It was said that all the Emperor armaments that he had refined could be said to be peerless grade. The most incredible thing was that his forging speed was extremely fast. On average, he could forge 2 sovereign weapons in a day. Moreover, there was no failure. Such a legendary artificer was definitely a talent that any great force would want to snatch away even if they had to break their heads. "I'm going to bring him back to the White Tiger bloodline to refine an imperial weapon for our race." Immediately, a man with a ferocious aura spoke with a burning gaze that revealed a threatening tone. "Otherwise, I'd rather destroy him now than allow him to fall into the hands of another power." "That's right, that's the way." The emperors of the White Tiger bloodline all nodded. The faces of the emperors of the Black Tortoise bloodline, led by the old man in the Taoist robe, became gloomy. "I'm sorry, Lin Daoyuan can only go with us this time. If you, the White Tiger bloodline, want to rob him, you have to think about the consequences." The old man in the Taoist robe was expressionless and said in a tough tone. The ferocious man was furious. He pointed at Lin Sun and said in a grim voice, "Lin Daoyuan, now follow me obediently. I promise that no one here dares to hurt your life. Otherwise, I'll kill you immediately." "How dare you?" The old man in the Taoist robe said coldly. "If my Black Tortoise bloodline can't get it, no one else can." For a time, the emperors of the White Tiger bloodline and the Black Tortoise bloodline confronted each other. They glared at each other and were at daggers drawn. Lin Sun's black eyes were cold, and an indescribable absurdity surged in his heart. What did these bastards think of him as? A prey that could be taken and slaughtered at will? Boom! Suddenly, someone from the White Tiger bloodline couldn't hold back and attacked first. It was a burly man. His figure flashed and he reached out to grab Lin Sun. "Lin, if you dare to struggle, I'll tear you apart. You're courting death." The old man in the Taoist robe's face darkened. How could he let the White Tiger bloodline get ahead of him? But just as he was about to make a move, something strange happened. Then, Lin Sun grabbed the burly man from the White Tiger bloodline in his hand, as if he was picking up a chicken. Then, he gently tore his arms outwards. Crash! The burly man's body was torn apart like a piece of rag. Blood poured down like a waterfall on the ground. Lin Sun casually threw the 2 torn limbs aside like garbage. tearing an emperor with his bare hands. This bloody scene caused the Emperor Realm experts of the White Tiger and Black Tortoise clans to shudder. Their faces changed drastically. "Quick, let's capture him first," the ferocious man roared. "Yes, let's capture him first." The old man in the Taoist robe also realized that something was wrong and shouted, "Boom!" The emperors of the White Tiger and the Black Tortoise bloodline acted without hesitation. They either took out their sovereign weapons or activated their secret skills. Any one of the emperors could burn mountains and boil seas, and destroy mountains and rivers, let alone a group of emperors. This scene was enough to make other emperors feel desperate. "You're courting death. Today, I'll use your lives to refine my sovereign weapon." But at this time, Lin Sun's lips curved into a cold smile. Buzz. Suddenly, a surging Taoist light rushed out. A cauldron glowed and released a great power that could suppress the sky. Rumble. As the furnace revolved in midair, the attacks that enveloped down from all directions were crushed, dispersed, and obliterated. Unshakable. All the emperors shrank their pupils. There were 17 emperors who came first this time. The weakest was at the second level of the Emperor Realm. The strongest, such as the ferocious man and the old man in the Taoist robe, were at the 7th level of the Emperor Realm. They could be regarded as the top figures in the Emperor Realm. But now, their attacks were all blocked by a cauldron. Before they could figure it out, Lin Sun attacked without hesitation. Slash! With a clang, a Taoist sword appeared in the cauldron. It set off a ray of Taoist light like the 9 heavens. Vaguely, there seemed to be the sun, the moon and the stars surging in it. What kind of sword was this? It was unimaginably fierce. It seemed to be able to cut the sky and cut through the ages. In an instant, screams resounded in the field. One of the emperors in the front was directly killed by the sword. His body was crushed by the sword chi and turned into ashes. There was a commotion in the field. Cries of horror rose one after another. "Quick, let's kill him together! Kill!" The ferocious man and the old man in the Taoist robe led the emperors to charge at Lin Sun with all their might. But no matter how strong their sovereign weapons were or how profound their Taoist techniques were, they were all crushed and disintegrated by the cauldron in front of Lin Sun. Along the way, a Taoist sword flickered frequently as Lin Sun willed it, and it set off an absolutely crushing and murderous battle. Slash! 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 Every time Lin Sun's voice resounded, there would be a great emperor killed on the spot. Their souls would scatter, and no one would be spared. That fierce and domineering slaughter was simply unparalleled, and it was simply all-powerful. Many sovereign weapons whistled up in an attempt to resist the attack of the Taoist sword. But in an instant they were shattered in the collision and turned into a rain of light that scattered all over the sky. In other words, the imperial weapons of the White Tiger clan and Black Tortoise clan's Imperial Realm experts couldn't withstand a single blow from that Dao sword. Bang! 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 In the field, sovereign weapons were constantly smashed, and at the same time, there were shrill screams. Those emperors exploded like firecrackers, splashing scarlet blood and dying on the spot. It was a complete massacre. Even if 17 emperors joined forces, even if they were in the 7th level of the Emperor Realm, they were still no match for them. Lin Sun stood in the same place. The cauldron and the sword were invincible in attack and unshakable in defense. He was harvesting the souls of those emperors. Boom! Before long, the armor and treasures in front of the ferocious man exploded, and his body was cut in half by Lin Sun's Taoist sword. At this time, only the old man in the Taoist robe was left in the field. His face was full of horror, and his soul almost flew out of his body. At the moment when the ferocious man was killed, his fighting spirit completely collapsed. He turned around and fled in a panic like a stray dog. However, as the sword light flashed, a scarlet blood light rose, and the old man in the Taoist robe, the 7th level of the Emperor Realm, was killed at the waist. At this point, 17 emperors were killed one by one under Lin Sun's sovereign weapon. No one survived. From start to finish, it had only been a moment. Clang! The Taoist sword made a clear sound and returned to the cauldron, being held in Lin Sun's hand. From today on, you are called the only sword cauldron. Lin Sun's eyes were deep, and he named his life sovereign weapon. Contain all Tao, develop all laws, never seen since the beginning of time, and the only one in the whole world. Buzz. The only sword cauldron trembled slightly, as if it was cheering for its own name. Lin Sun couldn't help but look forward to the day when the only sword cauldron transformed and gave birth to a spirit. How different it would be. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Suddenly, there was a fluctuation in the void, and some figures rushed into the secret realm again. They were all emperors. It was obvious that these emperors were a step behind and had only just arrived. When they saw that there was only Lin Sun in the empty secret realm, the 7 emperors from the White Tiger clan and the Black Tortoise clan all had a bad feeling. Before they could figure out the situation, Lin Sun had started to kill without hesitation. Boom! The only sword cauldron roared out, flowing with hundreds of millions of rays of light. Just the power it released made the world tremble. Lin Sun said leisurely in his heart, "Today's battle, I'll let you have a taste of the Emperor's blood." Clang! The only sword cauldron roared out with unparalleled sharpness, and its clear sound resounded through the world, causing the wind and clouds to change color. P.S. First of all, asking for monthly votes. Second, there is still some distance to go for goldfish. Asking for my attention. Open or search for Xiao Jinyu, and add my attention. Finally, before 10 o'clock. Chapter 2381. The Taoist sword whistled like lightning, and the fierce sword qi tore through the sky. The 7 great Emperor Realm cultivators were flustered by the sudden change in the situation. Puff! In a flash, an Emperor Realm cultivator was beheaded, and the incomparably vast sword qi covered the sky and earth, destroying his body and turning it into ashes. Bang! Before long, a cyan spear was cut in two, and the eyebrow of the owner of the spear was pierced. He let out an unwilling roar and died on the spot. In this completely crushing killing, Lin Sun also felt the real power of the only sword cauldron. One word: strong. When he used this treasure to fight, not only did it allow him to perfectly unleash his cultivation, but his combat strength had also obviously increased greatly. Suddenly, Lin Sun had an idea to use the only sword to deduce the inheritance of Taishian sword scripture. Boom! The only sword of the Tao emanated boundless sword qi that was brilliant and blazing. It transformed into a sword formation that covered the heavens and the earth as it smashed down. In an instant, rumbling that shook the heavens and the earth resounded. When the dust and light dispersed, 3 of the 5 emperors that remained on the battlefield had been annihilated on the spot, and only 2 of them were still standing. However, they were heavily injured. As the one Tao sword slashed out, the remaining 2 martial emperors were also slain. If I use the only sword to control the inheritance of Sword Tao, the power is enough to double the ordinary attack. Lin Sun couldn't help but gasp when he came to this conclusion. Soon, he guessed the reason. The only sword cauldron was made of many divine materials, such as the 9 emperor weapons of Kunlun. This also made the only sword cauldron have different magical functions of the 9 emperor weapons of Kunlun at the moment of its birth. For example, the infinite bottle could double the power of the attack. Thinking of this, Lin Sun couldn't help but be excited. I don't know whether the City of Fire has completely fallen at this time, and how about Shi and Xiaji? Lin Sun didn't dare to delay any more time. After a little thought, he went out of the secret realm. Boom! As soon as he walked out of the secret realm, a deafening roar came, as if the sky was falling and the earth was cracking, and the chaotic and destructive atmosphere raged. With the spread of Lin Sun's spiritual awareness, he saw that the vast city of Wanfire was already in a state of desolation and ruins everywhere. the spacious streets that were orderly like cobwebs in the past, and the rows upon rows of majestic buildings, had all been destroyed long ago. Billowing smoke filled the air. In such a large city, there was actually no place left intact. Kill! 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 In a place extremely far away, a series of battle cries that sounded like the roars of gods and demons could be heard. Earth-shattering rays of Tao and monarch weapons whistled across the place, stirring up chaos in the sky and shaking the surroundings. Apart from that, there were also many black tortoise and white tiger clans that wreaked havoc in the city like tidewater, pursuing and killing the experts in the city. Such a scene was simply like the end of the world, and it was filled with an aura of destruction, blood, and cruelty. All of a sudden, Lin Sun's heart tightened. Quick, kill them! Leave no one alive! In the distance, a group of strong white tiger clans formed a group and chased after some clansmen of Shinggong Imperial Clan. Lin Sun even saw the figures of Lian Hongxiu, Lian Feijia, and others. It's really crazy! Lin Sun's eyes were cold, and his figure suddenly rose into the air. Endless Taishian sword qi whistled out of his acupoints and covered the area. Boom! The sword qi was vast, like a vast ocean, showing unparalleled power. In merely an instant, the several tens of White Tiger Imperial Clan experts were all killed by the boundless sword aura. It was incomparably domineering. Lian Hongxiu, Lian Feijiao, and others were stunned for a moment, and then showed ecstasy. Only then did they realize that it was Lin Sun who saved them. For the time being, I'll inconvenience you. Lin Sun waved his sleeve, and before Lian Hongxiu and others agreed, he put them into the Tower of Ceaseless one by one. At present, there was no safe place to hide in the City of Fires, so Lin Sun could only settle them in this way for the time being. Then, he swept in the direction of the city. Along the way, he saw strong White Tiger and Black Tortoise clans everywhere, most of whom were below the Emperor realm. They hunted the strong Immortal Phoenix and Shinggong Imperial Clan in the city in group. In this regard, Lin Sun would not be polite. All the enemies he saw were killed mercilessly at the first time. Looking down from the sky, one would find that wherever Lin Sun passed, the surrounding area was dyed with thick blood. That was the blood of the fallen enemies. There were also some Emperor Realm figures who noticed Lin Sun's existence and attacked him from a distance. But it was no different from courting death, and they were killed by Lin Sun. Lin Sun did not delay along the way. He knew very well that no matter how many people below the Emperor Realm he killed, it would be of no use. The top priority was to kill the big shots of White Tiger and Black Tortoise clans. Outside the city, the battle was fierce. The battlefield affected the territory of tens of thousands of miles, and the world fell into an unprecedented collapse. This was a battle at the level of Emperor Ancestor. When the supreme power swept out, the world changed color and everything was crushed. It was unimaginably terrifying. Bai Lingzhen and Wu Xiuxing led a group of Emperor Ancestor characters and had a firm advantage in the battle. As the battle continued, this advantage became more and more obvious. Most importantly, there were only 8 people in the Emperor Ancestor realm, including Shi Big Yellow and Huang Sangtian. The other side had a total of 19 Emperor Ancestors. In addition, although Bai Lingzhen and Wu Xiuxing were not in the 9th level of Emperor Realm, they were still extremely powerful 8th level Emperor Realm characters. They were also a great deterrent. Even if Shi's combat strength was unparalleled, and he alone could resist the attacks of many Emperor Ancestors, he could not turn the increasingly dangerous situation around. For example, Huang Sangtian's body was already stained with blood, and he was seriously injured. In addition, 3 Emperor Ancestors were also seriously injured. At the moment, only Shi, Big Yellow, and the other 3 Emperor Ancestors could continue to fight at the front. On the other hand, although some of the 19 Emperor Ancestors were injured, their injuries were not serious. They seemed to have an absolute advantage. Bai Lingzhen roared with laughter when he saw this. Huang Sangtian, I'll give all of you one last chance. Quickly surrender, or don't blame me for flattening this place and killing all of you." His voice was like a bell that reverberated through the surroundings and spread through the heavens and the earth. The expressions of Huang Tsangtian and the others became extremely unsightly when they heard this. The current situation was indeed showing signs of falling apart. What made them even more worried was that the other side had killed their way into the A1 workshop, and they did not know what the situation was like there. "Little kitty, what are you yelling for? I'll pull out your tendons, skin you, and cook you into a pot of meat porridge," Big Yellow sneered. He was being attacked by 3 emperor ancestors. Although he was in a passive position and seemed to be in a sorry state, he was still extremely domineering. "Bastard, how dare you be so rude? You're simply courting death." Bai Lingzhen's face sank and he berated in a cold voice. At the same time, he ordered the 2 emperor ancestors, "Go, kill this bastard first." Big Yellow gasped and said, "Damn you! Don't you have any shame?" It was already strenuous for him to be besieged by 3 emperor ancestors, so what would happen if 2 more of them joined in? Right at this moment, who did you say was courting death? Suddenly, a piercingly cold voice resounded, and it reverberated outside the city like a thunderclap. Lin Sun. She, Big Yellow, Xia Ji, Huang Tsangtian, and the others who were fighting intensely were surprised. Why isn't he guarding the secret realm at such a critical moment? Why has he appeared here? Swoosh. The sky surged as a ray of light shot through the sky. Lin soon arrived on the ray of light, and his deep black eyes seemed like cold bolts of lightning that intended to see through the profundities of the heavens and the earth. "Don't worry, all of you. I've annihilated all those old bastards that trespassed into the workshop." As soon as Lin Sun's words were spoken, Huang Tsangtian and the others felt relieved, and the gloominess from before was swept away. On the other hand, Bai Lingzhen, Wu Xiuxing, and the other old monsters narrowed their eyes in disbelief. How dare a young man of the 3rd-level Emperor realm boast like him? But if he was lying, how did he walk out of the city unscathed? For a moment, they couldn't help but feel puzzled. "Young man, who do you think you are? How dare you speak without thinking? Are you tired of living?" Bai Lingzhen said coldly, and his words were full of disdain. Then, he waved his hand, "7th Elder, go and capture him." A gray-robed old man pulled himself out of the battle and stared coldly at Lin Sun, who had just appeared in the distance. The aura of the 8th-level Emperor realm emanated from his body. "Lin Sun, stand down." Big Yellow's expression changed. Lin Sun sneered, "He's just an old bastard. I can kill him with a flick of my finger." As soon as these words were spoken, the old monsters of the White Tiger clan and the Black Tortoise clan almost burst out laughing. "This kid is too arrogant. He's only a 3rd-level Emperor realm, but he dares to look down on them. He's digging his own grave." Huang Tsangtian and the others were shocked. They were both shocked by Lin Sun's courage and couldn't help but worry for him. After all, the other party had the advantage in numbers. Under these circumstances, only an emperor ancestor would dare to get involved. And Lin Sun was only a 3rd-level Emperor realm. Lin Sun didn't seem to notice any of this. His expression was calm and indifferent as he uttered softly, "Today, I really want to see how strong an emperor ancestor is. Vile spawn. You're only a 3rd-level Emperor realm, yet you dare to be so arrogant? Are you insane? Come and die." The face of the 8th-level Emperor realm 7th Elder darkened. He suddenly made his move, and a battle blade surrounded by purple lightning appeared in his hand as he slashed down. Rumble! The blade was like a galaxy of lightning descending, accompanied by a peerless and violent power as it slashed towards Lin Sun. Lin Sun said indifferently, "I said, I can kill you with a flick of my finger." Before he could finish his sentence, clang! A clear howl that shook the heavens resounded as a Dao sword soared through the sky to intercept that ray of violet lightning. Both of them collided like a star exploding apart, causing the heavens and the earth to rumble while space exploded into pieces, and violent waves surged towards the surroundings. Crack! In the blink of an eye, the purple thunder saber exploded like a piece of paper. Subsequently, the seventh elder's figure didn't even have the time to dodge before he was slashed to death by the Tao sword that slashed down explosively. P.S. Today's 4 chapters are over, please vote. Chapter 2382. Not good. The expressions of Bai Lingzhen and the others changed drastically. They did not expect the situation to undergo such a shocking change when the battle had just begun. It was unbelievable that a young emperor in the 3rd level could kill a cultivator in the 8th level with one strike. Huang Tsangtian and the others were shocked. They had only seen Lin Sun's unfathomable attainments in refining weapons. Who would have thought that he was so strong? The difference between the 3rd level and the 8th level was more than 1 level. How did he do it? Under the bloody sunset, Lin Sun stood alone, with his thick black hair flying in the air. His momentum was like the abyss of the universe, and he seemed to be able to hold off 10,000 enemies by himself. Clang! The Taoist sword returned to the cauldron in front of Lin Sun. The old monsters also noticed this life emperor weapon. With just a glance, those old monsters couldn't help but be stunned. What kind of cauldron was this? The Taoist light was dense, vast and immortal, as if it could suppress the heavens. It was filled with a heart-palpitating aura. It was too extraordinary. Although it was floating there, it was like the master of the emperor weapon, spewing out a brilliant power that could shock the world. Coincidentally, people thought of the unparalleled phenomenon that appeared in the depths of the sky not long ago. They thought of the huge cauldron that was protected by billions of rays of light and covered the heavens and the stars. So it was this treasure. People suddenly realized that this was Lin Sun's life emperor weapon. The phenomenon that appeared in the depths of the sky not long ago was caused by this emperor weapon. Many old monsters of the White Tiger and Black Tortoise clans were moved and their eyes became hot. Such a precious treasure could absolutely be said to be rare since time immemorial. What a treasure! Bai Lingzhen's eyes were suffused with a frightening glow, and his expression was cold. I'm able to discern that it's precisely relying on the might of this treasure that allowed your combat strength to become formidable. But how could a character like you be worthy of such a precious treasure? 3rd Supreme Elder, please go and capture this kid. Remember, don't take his life. This Lin Daoyuan is an extraordinary weapon refinement grandmaster. As soon as he finished speaking, a green-robed man who had been fighting with the immortal Phoenix bloodline's old antiques suddenly pulled himself out of the fight. He looked up to the sky and let out a long laugh. Crafting grandmaster? It just so happens that our White Tiger lineage is indeed lacking such an odd-job worker. His voice was like a clap of thunder, and his emperor ancestor realm aura covered the heavens and earth, terrifying beyond compare. Boom! The man in cyan had already made his move. As he grasped with his big hand, a giant palm was condensed in the void, covering the sky and the sun, and shrouded Lin Sun. Shi, Big Yellow, and Xia Ji, who were fighting against the monarch ancestors, narrowed their eyes. The faces of Huang Tsangtian and the others changed. How could it be normal for an emperor ancestor to take action? Buzz! The sword cauldron in front of Lin Sun rumbled as it emanated a monstrous glow of the way, and it collided with the enormous palm that was approaching him. For a time, an explosion resounded like thunder, and a surging divine radiance arose at the point of collision, causing the nearby space to rumble and be obliterated. Inconceivably, that green-clothed man's attack had actually been dispersed by the ultimate sword cauldron. Everyone couldn't help but look over in shock. The power of an emperor ancestor was enough to suppress all existences in the emperor realm, and it could be said to be the peak existence on the road of emperor realm. It could be called a true, supreme overlord, looking down upon the heavens. The attack of such a figure was blocked by the emperor weapon in the hands of a peak 3rd-level emperor realm great emperor. This was simply shocking. Even the man in cyan was stunned, as if he couldn't believe it. In fact, what the ultimate sword cauldron demonstrated before was the essence of the flawless armor. Its defense was unparalleled, unshakable, and extremely marvelous. At this moment, Lin Sun's qi and blood were also surging. In his heart, he had to admit that the Emperor Ancestor realm was indeed incomparably terrifying and difficult to surpass. After all, his cultivation had already reached the peak of the third level of the martial Emperor realm, and he possessed the unique sword cauldron. However, he still felt extremely pressured when facing the martial Emperor realm head-on. It was obvious how monstrous the martial Emperor realm was. The word ancestor seemed to be a huge gap that could not be crossed. However, Lin Sun had no intention of fighting the Emperor Ancestor head-on this time. "Old bastard, take this move of mine." Lin Sun let out a long roar, and the ultimate sword burst out, setting off endless sword qi, demonstrating the inheritance of the sky-destroying Sword Emperor. Whoosh! The sword qi flashed, and the 3 inches of eternal silence. With the ultimate sword, the power of this sword suddenly doubled, which was due to the magical effect of the infinite bottle. Humph! The man in cyan waved his hand, and the divine law was like a tide, smashing the sword. "Little thing, do you think you're qualified to fight with me? Come over here." He stepped in the void and his clothes fluttered. He stretched out his 5 fingers and the void was torn apart. He grasped at Lin Sun through the air, and an unparalleled torrent of palm force burst out like a landslide and a tsunami. Lin Sun's black eyes were calm, and he tried his best to demonstrate his own sword inheritance. For example, the sword drawing, sword commanding, and heart sword of the sky-destroying Sword Emperor. For example, the Taishian Sword Sutra. For example, the sword of cutting the way in a flash, as if there was no return. Each kind of sword inheritance had long been integrated into Lin Sun's cultivation. Through Lin Sun's extreme deduction and release, it reflected a completely different power from the past. For a time, brilliant sword intent whistled through the world, causing this expanse of the heavens and the earth to be illuminated by the dazzling sword light that illuminated the heavens and the earth. As the Emperor Ancestor, although the man in cyan was not afraid, he was restrained by this storm-like attack for a while, and could only constantly resolve it. His attack was blocked by the only sword cauldron every time. It was impossible for him to get close to Lin Sun, let alone suppress and capture him. Bai Lingzhen's eyes were fixed, and he couldn't believe it. Not only him, but also the old monsters who were fighting fiercely nearby, when they saw such a scene, were surprised. On the other hand, all of this caused the azure-clothed man to feel extremely embarrassed. As the Emperor Ancestor, he couldn't do anything to a third level of the Emperor realm in a short time. If this was spread out, it was destined to be a stain on his life. Lin Sun suddenly waved his sleeves in the battle, took out the insignificant bow, and said in his heart, "I've raised you for so long, it's time to show you a good performance." Boom! On the rough and ferocious bow composed of white bones and skeletons, a terrible and boundless fierce aura emerged. The device spirit Wu Kei, which was silent in the insignificant spiritual bow, woke up at this moment and turned into the appearance of a gray-haired young man, appearing out of thin air. Wu Kei held the insignificant bow in his hand and carried the blue sky arrow, moly arrow, auspicious light arrow and peace feather arrow on his back. His fierce aura was like a real arrow god. Many old antiques couldn't help looking at him. What a fierce aura! "Go to help Xia Ji," Lin Sun said. Wu Kei glanced around and immediately saw Xia Ji and Yellow fighting against 3 old monsters of the Emperor Ancestor realm thousands of miles away. Without hesitation, he rushed over. Before he arrived, the blue sky arrow had been shot by him with the insignificant bow. Boom! The void seemed to be torn apart, and the sound of wind and thunder resounded. Vaguely, there seemed to be the cry of demons echoing. This arrow was extremely swift and fierce, and its momentum was like a bolt of lightning. At the same time, Lin Sun waved his sleeve again, and the broken blade emerged. Together with Wu Kei, he rushed towards Xia Ji and Yellow. Broken blade, you already have a spirit. It's time for you to fight by yourself. Don't let me down, Lin Sun said in his heart. Boom! The dull broken blade burst into brilliant brilliance, and the fierce spirit raged in the sky. The terrifying figure in the depths of the broken blade also woke up at this moment. Whoosh! In an instant, the broken blade had turned into a stream of light and rushed into the battlefield. Before, Yellow and Xia Ji could only resist the attack of the three Emperor ancestors together, and they were in a very passive and embarrassing situation. But with the participation of Wu Kei and Broken Blade, the situation suddenly changed. Wu Kei held the insignificant bow in his hand. He used the 4 arrows of Blue Sky Arrow, Moly Arrow, Auspicious Light and Peace Feather to attack from a long distance, which was unexpected and domineering. His archery had reached a shocking level. The whistling of those arrows immediately disrupted the battle. Although the 3 Emperor ancestors had infinite spiritual power, they were also disrupted the rhythm of the battle. This made their faces gloomy. One of the Emperor ancestors was even more furious. He pulled himself out and teleported through the void to kill Wu Quebec. However, before he could get there, he was blocked by the broken blade that shot over explosively. Boom! The broken blade gave off a monstrous killing intent. With one slash, even the Emperor ancestor couldn't help but be shocked. Taking advantage of this opportunity, both Yellow and Xia Ji broke free from the passive situation and launched an active attack. A series of scenes happened almost in the blink of an eye. But everyone saw that with the participation of Wu Kei and Broken Blade, the situation of Yellow and Xia Ji had been reversed. However, this was not the end. As Lin Sun turned his sleeve, the ancient and vast reincarnation sword case emerged. This time, without Lin Sun's warning, the sword spirit Yi had emerged and said calmly, "Lin Sun, don't worry, I will do my best." Lin Sun nodded and pointed to Huang Tsangtian and others in the distance. "Yi, go and help them." "Okay." Ye's voice was still drifting, but he had already entered the battle in the distance. Seeing this, Lin Sun's heart became calmer. Over the years, as Lin Sun continued to feed them with various Emperor weapons, Wu Kei, the Broken Blade Spirit, and Yi had all undergone many transformations as they refined the essence of the Emperor weapons. Now, it was time for them to make a move and show off their abilities. Lin Sun looked at the battle situation on Xi's side and couldn't help but frown. She was currently being besieged by 5 Emperor ancestors. The battle was extremely fierce. Although the situation was not dangerous, it was not optimistic. "Little bastard, how dare you ignore me?" Suddenly, an explosive shout that was filled with rage resounded. The cyan-clothed man in the distance had a gloomy face and blue veins on his forehead, as if he was in a violent rage. In fact, he was really angry to the point that his lungs were about to explode. While fighting him, Lin Sun was distracted to pay attention to the battles in other places and sent many reinforcements. This was simply not putting him, the Emperor ancestor, in his eyes. What made the cyan-clothed man most exasperated was that no matter how he attacked and suppressed Lin Sun, he still couldn't break the sword cauldron in front of Lin Sun. This was undoubtedly too humiliating. If this spread out, he would become a laughing stock. P.S. I'll send the first update first. Let me clarify 2 things. Many people said that Goldfish had made a mistake. But Goldfish had to say that the Tower of Ceaseless and the rectangular bell were never part of the 9 Emperor weapons of Kunlun. The second thing was that the name Unique Sword Cauldron was too lame, so Goldfish decided to change it and gather some domineering names. Everyone can follow Goldfish's follow. Tomorrow, I'll officially start the gathering on the official account. Finally, I'll continue to release more updates today. The above nonsense is free. Genius 1 Second Remember website. Mobile version. Chapter 2383. Lin Sun couldn't help laughing at the exasperated look of the man in green. He said with a playful look, "So what if I ignore you? Come and kill me if you dare." Endless Sword Chi roared. The One Dao sword displayed all kinds of supreme swordsmanship. Although it couldn't hurt the man in green, it forced him to defend himself. The existence of the One Cauldron allowed all of his attacks to be blocked. In short, in this battle, no matter who it was, they couldn't do anything to each other. For Lin Sun, this was already a feat that defied the natural order. After all, he was at the third level of the Emperor realm and fought against an Emperor ancestor. If this news spread out, it would definitely cause countless exclamations. However, to a senior like the azure-clothed man who'd lived for countless years, such a battle was absolutely capable of causing his reputation to be completely destroyed. "I'll kill you!" The man in green was furious. He activated his Emperor weapon, which was a fiery red Taoist seal, engraved with 2 words, void suppressing, and released a terrible power that could suppress the sky. "Rise!" Lin Sun's mind moved, and the Tower of Endless emerged, showing a supreme power that could suppress both ancient and modern times. In a flash, the sky and earth collapsed, and the roar continued. What made the man in green's face pale was that even though he used his life weapon, the void-suppressing Taoist seal, it was blocked. Up to this point, he hadn't made any progress, and Bai Lingzhen, Wu Xiuxing and other old monsters who were watching this scene were shocked and angry. Was this the fighting power of a third-level Emperor Realm Emperor? It was simply maddening. Since ancient times, no one had ever heard of a peerless emperor who could go against the natural order to this extent, let alone seen it. In the void, Lin Sun alone was fighting against an emperor ancestor. Not only was he not suppressed, but there was a kind of equal situation. This caused Huang Tsangtian and the others to be astounded, and they were dazzled by this scene. This was too shocking. In the current world, a peerless and heaven-defying existence like this was absolutely capable of shocking others to death. After all, with the cultivation of the third level of the Emperor realm, Lin Sun could fight evenly with an Emperor ancestor. This had never happened before. "Bastard! Die now!" Suddenly, an old man roared and joined the battle. Like a water god, he controlled a blue jade bottle and poured out hundreds of millions of tons of mysterious black water. It was like the Milky Way sweeping across the universe to kill Lin Sun. This old man was at the peak of the 8th-rank Emperor realm. He had always been by Bai Lingzhen's side as an assistant. He had come to help under Bai Lingzhen's orders. "Old dog, you don't have the qualifications to participate in this battle," Lin Sun sneered. The one-way sword glowed and released a myriad of divine splendors as it slashed forward. As soon as the sword was unleashed, the world changed color and even ghosts and gods were shocked. Rumble! The peerless sword Qi seemed all-powerful as it forcefully crushed through space and surged over with a bang. Pooh! It directly chopped off the old man's right arm. Dazzling bloody light rushed into the heavens. The old man screamed miserably, his face filled with shock. He had never imagined that he would be injured by a young man just as he rushed over. In reality, if it wasn't for the man in green restraining him, this sword alone could have taken his life. "Get lost!" The man in green roared and became more and more annoyed. He already felt humiliated, but someone actually jumped out to help him. Did they think that he couldn't suppress a little thing at the 3rd-rank Emperor realm with his strength alone? The old man who had lost an arm turned pale and did not dare to participate in the battle. He turned around and retreated from the battlefield. "It's time to finish him." The man in green robe took a deep breath, and a terrifying torrent of Taoist light surged out of his body, faintly condensing into a vast world. He was already angry and decided to use his true power. Lin Sun's foundation was too heaven-defying. If he didn't get rid of him today, no one in the heavens would be able to suppress him. At this moment, he dared not hold back anymore. "Go!" The man in green robe made a seal with both hands. His beard and hair fluttered in the wind. The true virtual seal suddenly surged with power, blazing like a scorching sun. The terrifying fluctuation was like the wind of the ninth heaven, raging in all directions. At this moment, Shi Yellow, Xia Ji, and Huang Tsangtian could not help but be moved. A trace of worry arose in their hearts. Previously, the third Supreme Elder had been holding back in order to capture this lad alive. Now he won't. Bai Lingzhen's eyes were cold. A legendary equipment refiner with such heaven-defying combat strength was simply a peerless monster, and it made Bai Lingzhen feel a strong desire to kill. Boom! The true virtual seal rushed out and released power, causing the pressure on Lin Sun to increase. But he was not afraid. On the contrary, the more he fought, the more courageous he became. Primitive Tao source surged in his body, adding great power to him. Especially the existence of the single sword cauldron, which allowed him to completely bring out his strength. The more he fought, the fiercer the flames of war burned in his heart, and the fiercer the battle techniques became. Suddenly, Lin Sun let out a long roar like the roar of a dragon and a tiger. His long hair fluttered in the wind, and the 5 Tao forms whistled out at this moment. They activated the Tao swords together with his original body. Swish! A strand of sword chi swept out, displaying the extreme power of one goes without return. The wisp of sword chi contained boundless sword intent, and it cut through the entire sky. It was sharp and dazzling, and in the eyes of everyone, it was like a thick bolt of lightning flashing across the sky. Bang! The void suppression seal was blasted flying, and deafening rumbling resounded. On the other hand, the azure-clothed man staggered, and he was actually pushed back a few steps by the might of this sword strike. In an instant, his expression became extremely colorful. He was shocked, furious, dazed, and filled with disbelief. He seemed to have never imagined that an imperial ancestor realm existence like him would actually be pushed back by a third-level imperial emperor realm cultivator. Rumble! The heavens and the earth seemed as if it was being torn apart. Lin Sun's might was formidable, and his main body and 5 clones attacked together while the Tao swords shot out violently and destroyed everything. In merely a short moment, the azure-clothed man was pushed back for the second time. Waves of exclamations of shock resounded in the surroundings, and the sound of gasping resounded incessantly. In the previous battle, they could be considered to be evenly matched, but now Lin Sun actually showed signs of turning the tables and repeatedly shaking an imperial ancestor realm expert. This was undoubtedly too terrifying. Sword intent shot out from the battlefield while strands of sword chi shot through the world and revealed boundless profundities of the Grand Tao. They bloomed in the heavens and the earth, and they illuminated the world. These strands of sword chi were violent and swift, and they suppressed the azure-clothed man to the point he had no choice but to dodge, causing him to seem rather embarrassed. "You're courting death." Suddenly, an emaciated figure of a gray-robed man among the 5 imperial ancestors who were besieging she charged out explosively towards Lin Sun. At practically the exact same moment, Lin Sun suddenly shouted loudly, "She!" It was only a single word, but she who was fighting fiercely seemed to have understood it, and a wisp of resolution arose in his clear eyes. Slash! Lin Sun didn't even spare a glance at the gray-robed man who was charging at him. He used his main body and 5 clones to activate the only Taoist sword with all their might and slashed out. It was a one-way trip. No one noticed that a strand of strange and obscure Taoist light was released from Lin Sun's body at the instant he slashed out. At this instant, the azure-clothed man thought that Lin Sun intended to put his life on the line, and he revealed a gloomy and savage smile as he intended to crush Lin Sun with the gray-robed man in the distance. But it was also at this instant that the death seal was released. Pooh! The only Taoist sword slashed down, and a vast torrent of sword chi slashed the azure-clothed man into 2 at the waist. As the sword chi rampaged, the body of the Emperor Ancestor realm existence that was like a heaven-reaching overlord was reduced to ashes. A rain of blood poured down. The death of an emperor ancestor shocked everyone present. But at the same time, the figure of the gray-robed old man who was charging at Lin soon shattered inch by inch in the void, and then he turned into wisps of light smoke and vanished. She was already standing behind him. His clothes fluttered in the wind, and the laws interweaved. His figure was graceful and aloof. In other words, Lin Sun and she had each killed an emperor ancestor at the same time. This was the first time since the start of the war that an emperor ancestor had died on the battlefield. Moreover, 2 of them had died at the same time. The battlefield that was originally filled with intense fighting became slightly silent at this moment, and the invisible shock drowned the hearts of the emperor ancestors present like a tide. Both the enemy and the ally were shocked. How is this possible? Bai Lingzhen's expression changed, and his eyes almost popped out of their sockets. His face was livid and ugly. The 2 emperor ancestors that had died were from the white tiger bloodline. Such a loss made his heart bleed. Kill! Taking advantage of this opportunity, Lin Sun had already charged at Bai Lingzhen aggressively, and his entire body was suffused with a shocking domineering aura. At the same time, she launched an extremely powerful counterattack. Her figure flashed, and a spear that looked like order suddenly condensed in her palm. She charged at Wu Xiuxing, who was in another area. She and Lin Sun had a tacit understanding. One of them locked onto Bai Lingzhen, and the other locked onto Wu Xiuxing. Both of them were very clear that as long as they captured these 2 patriarchs, the situation of this battle would definitely be rewritten. Boom! The soul sword cauldron flowed with a myriad of divine radiances. As Lin Sun attacked, the Dao sword that was like a waterfall caused surging torrents of sword qi that caused the heavens and the earth to fall into disorder and collapse. Bai Lingzhen was currently in a fierce battle with Huang Tsangtian. When he noticed this scene, he didn't hesitate to dodge and didn't fight head-on at all. The death of the green-robed man who was an emperor ancestor made him completely aware of Lin Sun's strength. How could he dare to fight head-on? Lin Sun naturally wouldn't allow Bai Lingzhen to dodge just like that. With a thought in his mind, boundless Taishian sword qi spread out and transformed into an overwhelming momentum that enveloped this area. Bai Lingzhen's expression changed. He let out a loud roar and waved the saber in his hand. He slashed down furiously in an attempt to break through the blockade and kill his way out of the siege. Boom! An earth-shattering collision resounded, and boundless divine light splashed. Bai Lingzhen was shaken by the sword qi to the point that blood sprayed from his mouth and nose, and his figure staggered back. Instantly, he'd suffered an extremely heavy injury. Die! Lin Sun attacked again at an unbelievable speed, and he intended to kill Bai Lingzhen in one go. Qi! But at this moment, a palm print suddenly condensed out of thin air, and it suddenly slapped towards Lin Sun like a scorching sun. This was an emperor ancestor attacking. At the same time, another emperor ancestor appeared by Bai Lingzhen's side and took him far away from the spot. Bang! Lin Sun was shaken by the extremely violent palm print to the point that the blood in his entire body surged, and he had no choice but to dodge. But before Bai Lingzhen, who'd escaped from death, could heave a sigh of relief, an extremely shrill scream resounded in the nearby battlefield. Chapter 2384. The scream came from a black tortoise emperor ancestor. In order to save Wu Xiuxing, who had been targeted by Shi, he was killed by Shi instead. Even his primordial spirit was wiped out before it could escape. This was the 3rd emperor ancestor that had fallen. Everyone was shocked, especially Bai Lingzhen and Wu Xiuxing. They'd just escaped from death, yet they witnessed such a cruel and bloody scene, causing their scalps to go numb. Before Lin Sun's arrival, they had the absolute advantage, and thought that it would only be a matter of time before they destroyed the immortal Phoenix bloodline. Who would have thought that after Lin Sun's arrival, a peak 3rd-level Emperor Realm Great Emperor, who they did not take seriously, would change the entire situation with his own strength. Just like now, 3 emperor ancestors had fallen one after another in just a short while. Even for innate spirit clans like White Tiger and Black Tortoise, this was an extremely heavy blow. After all, there were only 19 Emperor Ancestor realm cultivators among them, even though they had mobilized all of their forces. Moreover, some of the Emperor Ancestors came from the forces that had attached themselves to their clans. On the other hand, Huang Tsangtian and the other Immortal Phoenix bloodline cultivators were already in despair, but now they were invigorated and their blood boiled. Kill! In the blink of an eye, Lin Sun, who had just endured a palm print, was already charging towards Bai Lingzhen in the distance. He looked disdainful, his pores flowing with blazing Dao light. Even though his cultivation was not enough on the battlefield, who would dare to underestimate him now? An Emperor Ancestor came forward to stop him, his palm print burning like a heavenly river of fire, boundlessly terrifying. Lin Sun used the one and only sword cauldron to resist, displaying the extreme of his cultivation. It had to be said that the one and only sword cauldron's power was extremely heaven-defying. It constantly displayed the infinite bottle, lawless saber, directionless flag, lifeless seal, skyless spear, and other wondrous powers that were integrated into the Dao sword. Even though Lin Sun's qi and blood were still surging in a head-on clash, the Emperor Ancestor couldn't do anything to him for a while. This ignited Lin Sun's fighting spirit, making him more and more courageous. In the past, he could only flee if he encountered an Emperor Ancestor. But it was different now. At the very least, he could rely on the Soul Sword Cauldron to go head-on against it. Just achieving this step was already an extremely shocking improvement. Rumble! The slaughter in the entire battlefield grew more and more intense, and the scene of destruction was everywhere. With the myriad fire imperial city as the center, the surrounding area of a few tens of thousands of kilometers had fallen into an unprecedented state of destruction. The mountains and rivers had ceased to exist, and the ground had sunk. Die for me! Before long, Big Yellow roared, as if it was going to shatter the sky. In its claws, it was holding a white bone staff that was over 3 meters long, and it was swinging it down fiercely at a powerful black-robed man. The black-robed man was one of the 3 Imperial Ancestors who were ganging up on Big Yellow and the others. When he saw this, he swung his silver spear at them without any hesitation. Dang! The two collided, and countless rays of light shot out. The silver spear was suddenly bent, and a terrifying force burst forth from the white bone rod, causing the black-robed man to stagger. Boom! At the same time, the blue sky arrow tore through the sky like a stream of light from outer space. The angle and timing of the arrow were extremely shrewd, and it was just at the moment when the black-robed man staggered. Open! The black-robed man roared. The Dharma in front of him interweaved like a tide, and the embryonic form of a world emerged to block the arrow. But before he could heave a sigh of relief, fatal murderous intents rushed at him from both sides. One was the dazzling and fierce Broken Blade. The other was Summer Solstice, who had seized the opportunity to attack. The black-robed man's expression changed slightly, but as an Imperial Ancestor, he had fought countless battles, so how could he be trapped by such a situation? Break! His long hair fluttered in the wind, and he roared. He formed a seal with both hands, and 2 strange Dao steels emerged to block the attack of Broken Blade and Summer Solstice. Just SOSO! The black-robed man snorted coldly, and his eyes were full of coldness and arrogance. How could an Imperial Ancestor be defeated by a sneak attack? But at this moment someone shouted, "Watch out!" The voice was like a clap of thunder. The black-robed man's pupils contracted, and he immediately felt a fatal sense of danger. He dodged without hesitation. But just as he dodged, Xi's figure suddenly appeared. What was even faster than she was a dazzling and magnificent rain of light. It was as profound and unfathomable as the Dharma order, and it engulfed the black-robed man. Boom! In an instant, the Imperial Ancestor turned into ashes that scattered into the sky. From Big Yellow's attack to Wu Kei, Broken Blade's spirit, and Summer Solstice's pincer attack, to Shi's appearance at the last moment, everything happened in the blink of an eye. It was unbelievably fast. And when everything ended, the fourth Imperial Ancestor died. Bai Lingzhen and Wu Xiao-Xing Xian trembled, and they were about to go crazy. They roared, "Hurry up and restrain that woman! Hurry!" They realized that the true fatal threat was Shi. Once she escaped, she would be like a trapped dragon rising to the sky. But it was clearly too late. With Shi's ability, how could she allow herself to be trapped by the other party again? Her figure flickered, and she galloped across the battlefield. Although she was blocked repeatedly, she broke through the blockades one by one. Not long after, she suddenly appeared beside Lin Sun. She flipped her jade-like hands, and a dreamy rain of light poured out. Although the Imperial Ancestor who was fighting fiercely with Lin Sun reacted immediately and tried to block the attack, he was still seriously injured. How could Lin Sun miss such a good opportunity? He directly used the one-sword cauldron to suppress it. Boom! The heavily injured Imperial Ancestor's body was smashed into pieces, and blood splattered everywhere. Only his primordial spirit managed to escape, and he let out a furious and mournful cry. Lin Sun couldn't help feeling a little regretful. At the end of the day, it was because his cultivation was too low. Otherwise, how could he not kill an Imperial Ancestor with such a good opportunity? But no matter what, the fifth Imperial Ancestor was already seriously injured, and even if he could recover in the future, he wouldn't be much of a threat now. Such a scene caused Bai Lingzhen, Wu Xiao-Xing, and the other old monsters to feel a chill in their hearts. The situation had become completely chaotic, and they were losing again and again. If this situation continued, their large-scale attack this time was very likely to be thwarted. No matter what, let's kill the Nirvana place of the immortal Phoenix Ancestor first, Bai Lingzhen roared. Previously, they were not in a hurry because they were confident of victory, but now they felt extremely urgent. Immediately, 3 Imperial Ancestors withdrew and moved towards the location of the Divine Workshop A, one of the 10,000 Fire Emperor City, with all their strength. This made Huang Tsangtian and the others' hearts skip a beat, and their expressions changed. They did not hesitate to chase after them, but they were blocked by the other old monsters of the White Tiger Clan and the Black Tortoise Clan. "I'll go kill them," she said, and his figure flickered and he chased after them. But halfway, he saw the 3 Imperial Ancestors in the distance were blocked by a fiery red divine flame. Boom! The divine flame was like the supreme god of fire venting his monstrous anger, wanton and overbearing, interweaving supreme power. In an instant, one of the Imperial Ancestors let out a shrill scream, and his entire body and soul were incinerated alive. The other 2 martial emperors dodged in time and escaped the calamity. However, when they saw this scene, they broke out in cold sweat from shock. Only then did they see clearly that the surging divine flame had suddenly turned into an incomparably beautiful figure, and her entire body was overflowing with unparalleled power. It was the All-Fire's spiritual empress. But at this moment the All-Fire's spiritual empress was obviously different from before, and there was a great power that could oppress the heavens. Obviously, she had inherited and integrated all the cultivation of the immortal Phoenix Ancestor previously. "All of you deserve to die." The All-Fire's spiritual empress eyes were filled with extreme hatred. As she spoke, the order of flames swept out like divine chains, and shot out. The 2 Imperial Ancestors had grave expressions, and they chose to retreat without hesitation. The death of their companion was still fresh in their minds, and they did not dare to continue fighting. But as soon as they turned around, they saw Shi's figure blocking their way. All of a sudden, their hearts sank to the bottom. Boom! The battle broke out unavoidably. The All-Fire's spiritual empress and she attacked from the front and back. Their combat strength was stronger and more terrifying than the other, and they almost suppressed the other 2 Imperial Ancestors and killed them in an instant. When they saw this scene from afar, Bai Lingjin, Wu Xiuxing, and the other old monsters of the White Tiger clan and the Black Tortoise clan were completely shocked, and their hearts were filled with coldness. Another 3 imperial ancestors had fallen. Such a loss was like a bolt from the blue, and it was a huge blow to them. The appearance of the All-Fire's spiritual empress was like the last straw that broke the camel's back, causing their fighting spirit to waver. Everyone knew that they had lost the upper hand. Retreat! With endless unwillingness and anger, Bai Lingjin hissed out an order. The remaining 12 Imperial Ancestor Realm old monsters secretly heaved a sigh of relief, and did not dare to hesitate any longer. They all chose to retreat. Want to escape? Not a chance. De Huang had waited for the situation to turn around, so how could he let the enemy escape? He roared and was about to chase after them. But he was stopped by Lin Sun. There's no need to chase after them. It was almost impossible to stop an Imperial Ancestor Realm existence from escaping. What's more, Huang Tsangtian and the other experts of the Immortal Phoenix clan were almost all injured at this time, so it was unwise to chase after the enemy. At this time, she and the All-Fire's spiritual empress also arrived at the battlefield, and their eyes swept across the battlefield, and they could not help but sigh. Especially the All-Fire's spiritual empress, there was a trace of shame in his eyes. Sorry? I'm a step late, Huang Tsangtian and the others shook their heads. Being able to survive the slaughter this time made them feel fortunate. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. In the distance, Xia Ji, De Huang, Wu Kei, Sword Spirit Leaf, and Broken Blade Spirit all flew over and gathered around Lin Sun. This made Lin Sun secretly relieved. At least there were no casualties among the people around him, which made him feel relieved. After all, the previous battle of the Imperial Ancestors was simply too terrifying. If it was not for she, the consequences would be absolutely unimaginable. P.S. The fourth one is a little later, about 10:30. Chapter 2385. The mountains and rivers were broken, the city collapsed, and thousands of miles of land were in ruins. The air was still filled with the pungent smell of blood and gunpowder. The former prosperity had now turned into a piece of scorched earth. The experts of the Divine Craftsman Imperial clan were cleaning up the mess with a sad and desolate look on their faces. In this battle, the armies of White Tiger and Black Tortoise broke through the City of Infinite Fire, which was equivalent to destroying the home of the Infinite Fire Imperial clan since ancient times. The clansmen of the Immortal Phoenix clan were equally angry and sad. For countless years, their clan had been respected in the Immortal Phoenix realm, and there had never been a disaster like today. The only thing to be thankful for was that the enemy did not get what they wanted, and their clan still had hope. As the patriarch of the Immortal Phoenix clan, even though he was seriously injured, Huang Tsangtian did not show any decadent emotions. He looked firm and calm to deal with the post-war affairs. The same was true for the seriously injured old antique. They had no time to sigh and were all taking the time to heal their wounds. Shi, Yellow, and Xia Ji were also resting and recovering their strength. They all knew that although the enemy was defeated, it was only temporary. After such a big loss, the White Tiger and Black Tortoise clans would not let it go easily. And 3 days later, the big shot from the Nirvana Luo clan would come. This was the biggest threat. I have inherited and integrated the cultivation of the ancestor of the Immortal Phoenix clan. If the big shot from the Nirvana Luo clan comes, I will deal with it. Wanhua Ling Emperor talked with Lin Sun calmly. I will not stand idly by. Lin Sun took a deep breath. The disaster suffered by the Immortal Phoenix clan was caused by Luo Qingxuan. As the son of Luo Qingxuan, Lin Sun was duty-bound to face such a thing. Aren't you worried that they will find out your identity and kill you at all costs? Wanhua Ling Emperor asked. Lin Sun smiled. If I am afraid, how can I go to the other side of the starry sky and see the ability of the Nirvana Luo clan? Wanhua Ling Emperor was startled and said, If there is such a day, I am looking forward to how famous you will be. The other side of the starry sky was a place that even the ancestors of the immortal emperors yearned to go to. It was rumored that only there was the Tao of eternal immortality. After pondering for a long time, Lin Sun still couldn't help but ask, "Senior, may I be so bold as to ask, is there no chance for the ancestor of the immortal phoenix to awaken from nirvana?" From his point of view, the first ancestor of the immortal phoenix gave him the order Phoenix Flame, and the cultivation was passed on to the myriad flames Spirit Emperor. If it wasn't for something, how could the first ancestor of the immortal phoenix do this? Wan Huoling Emperor shook his head and told Lin Sun that the ancestor of immortal phoenix had decided to carry out a new nirvana. He also told Lin Sun that the way the ancestor of immortal phoenix sought was a way that transcended the peers of all ages. Lin Sun's heart trembled. She cut off her previous cultivation, regarded the order Phoenix Flame as a fetter, and resolutely chose a new nirvana. What kind of courage did she have to make such a decision so decisively? You don't have to think too much. Take advantage of the fact that the big shot from the Permitha Luo clan hasn't arrived yet. As the Spirit Emperor of all flames spoke, he floated away. Lin Sun stood there alone, looking at the desolate ruins for a long time. Finally, he withdrew his gaze, sat cross-legged, and meditated. Nearly half of the power of chaotic divine essence was still stored in his body, which could be used to restore his strength quickly. In just 2 hours, Lin Sun woke up from meditation, and his physical strength returned to its peak state. He found Huang Tsangtian and Lian Jiuxiao and proposed that he needed a batch of divine materials to set up a formation. Both of them readily agreed. Although the City of Fire was destroyed, the heritage of the Immortal Phoenix clan and the Divine Craftsman clan was still there, especially the treasures accumulated over countless years, which had not been looted. Soon, all the divine materials Lin Sun needed were ready. "Xiao Wu, I'll leave it to you." Lin Sun decided to set up the Falling Tao formation in front of the number 1 divine workshop, and Xiao Wu was the best at this formation. The earth veins and spiritual sources of tens of thousands of miles of mountains and rivers have long been broken. Even if the formation is successfully set up, it can only last for less than 2 hours at most. Are you sure you want to waste so many divine materials? Xiao Wu couldn't help but remind him. The value of the divine materials needed to set up a Falling Tao formation was extremely high. Don't talk nonsense and get to work. Lin Sun knocked on the little fellow's head. The latter grimaced in anger, but in the end, he acted obediently. 2 days later, the Falling Tao formation was successfully set up. Lin Sun and others all entered the number 1 divine workshop covered by the formation. On the same day, Xia Ji suddenly found Lin Sun and said, "Lin Sun, I may have to practice in extreme silence." Lin Sun was stunned. "Now?" Xia Ji nodded and said in a clear voice, "If Sister Jing Xian wakes up, remember to ask her to write down the method of giving birth." Lin Sun's lips twitched imperceptibly. If Jing Xian knew this, how embarrassing it would be. Before Lin Sun could respond, Xia Ji had snuggled up to him and fell asleep quietly. The beautiful face under the brim of the hat glowed with quiet and holy luster. Lin Sun reached out and gently stroked her cheek. Thinking of the time when he was with Xia Ji in Feiyun village, he couldn't help smiling. After a while, he carefully picked up Xia Ji and placed her in his imperial realm. The Tower of Ending might be lost, but unless he died, his life imperial realm might not be destroyed. 2 days later, on the bank of a lake far away from the city of 10,000 fire. Now, we can only wait for the arrival of the big shot of the Nirvana Luo family. Maybe we can take revenge and wipe out the damn immortal phoenix. Bai Lingzhen's face was gloomy. Near him were a group of old monsters of the White Tiger bloodline. Not far away were Wu Xiuxing and other old monsters of the Black Tortoise bloodline. As for the 800,000 troops led by the 2 clans, they were now stored in treasures and could come out at any time. Wu Xiuxing's face was gloomy. I'm only worried whether the ancestor of the immortal phoenix has awakened from nirvana. You should be worried that the ancestor of the immortal phoenix will take this opportunity to escape. Bai Lingjun smiled. Wu Xiuxing did not deny it. If the ancestor of the immortal phoenix escaped, then even if the big shot of the Nirvana Luo family came, it would be too late. For the white tiger and the black tortoise bloodline, the most fatal threat came from the ancestor of the immortal phoenix. This was also an important reason why they mobilized such a large force to invade. Didn't they say that the seventh elder of the Nirvana Luo family would come today? Why hasn't he appeared yet? Wu Xiuxing was puzzled. Bai Lingjun's brows were also tightly knitted. According to the information, the other party should have arrived today. At this moment, a warm voice that was like the spring breeze sounded. You're waiting for me? Every word was like the reverberating sound of nature, causing the world to glow with a kind of vitality, becoming bright and lively. Before the voice finished, two figures, one old and one young, silently appeared out of thin air. They were indistinct and unfathomable. The old man had wide sleeves and a belt. He was thin and refined. His figure was tall, like a teacher in the secular world. The only difference was that a bright red string was tied around his wrist. The young man beside him was dressed in a snow-white robe. His facial features were handsome and elegant. His jet-black hair was tied up in a unique lotus-shaped bun. His thin and elegant figure was outstanding. The old man's gaze was warm and flat, and he seemed as if he stood aloof from the world. However, no matter if it was the imperial ancestor realm existences present here or the great figures like Bai Lingjun and Wu Xiuxing, at this moment, they felt that the old man was like a lofty mountain that they could only look up to, and they felt tiny. On the other hand, the white-clothed young man had an indifferent expression. He was neither happy nor sorrowful, and he didn't have a trace of arrogance or domineering aura. But in his eyes, everyone present here was no different than the myriad of things in this world. Even though everything was within his eyes, they were nothing. This was a form of conceit that was restrained to the extreme. At practically the first possible moment, Bai Lingjun, Wu Xiuxing, and all the other existences that could be considered to be extraordinary overlords in the past stood up in unison and bowed respectfully. Their expressions were filled with respect and sincerity. If such a scene were to be seen by others, they would surely be shocked speechless. After all, the White Tiger and Black Tortoise clans were natural spirit clans that were born at the very beginning of the primeval times, and their resources and reserves were ancient and terrifying. On the other hand, these people present here were existences that were like overlords of these two clans, and they were sufficient for countless living beings in the world to look up to them. But now, not a single one of them wasn't respectful and humble. The reason was very simple. The old man with wide sleeves and a wide belt was the seventh elder of the Permitha Luo clan, Luo Xingfeng. No matter if it was Luo Xingfeng or the white-clothed young man, both of their expressions remained calm, as if they were used to such a scene. In reality, they were indeed used to it. There's no need to be so courteous. Luo Xingfeng waved his hand. At his level of cultivation, he didn't care about such formalities. Only then did Bai Lingjun and the others dare to straighten their bodies, and the respect and reverence on their faces only increased. Tell me about the situation, Luo Xingfeng said casually. Soon after, Bai Lingjun told them everything about the battle 3 days ago, and he didn't dare to hide anything. After listening to him, Luo Xingfeng's expression remained calm. He merely acknowledged, then turned to look at the white-clothed young man next to him and said with interest, Chinner, in your opinion, what do you think of Lin Deyuan's battle strength? The white-clothed young man said calmly, Ju is at the 3rd level of the martial emperor realm, possesses an extraordinary origin imperial weapon, and is able to fight against the emperor ancestor. Just this alone makes him a top-rate genius amongst martial emperors in the Permethal world. Even though he said this, his tone was completely emotionless, and it seemed as if he was merely answering a question. Hearing the white-clothed young man's evaluation, Bai Lingjun, Wu Xiuxing, and the other seniors couldn't keep calm. Lin Daoyuan is so heaven-defying, yet he can only be called a top-rate genius in the Permitha world? Luo Xingfeng nodded with a smile and said, "In this world, it's rare indeed for Lin Daoyuan to possess such attainments in the Grand Tao. However, if he's compared to those dazzling geniuses in the Permitha world, then he isn't really special." "This isn't special?" Bai Lingjun, Wu Xiuxing, and the others couldn't keep calm, and they felt as if their understanding was about to be overturned. Exactly what sort of place is the Permitha world? P.S. The 4th update is here. We'll continue tomorrow. Chapter 2386. Just by looking at the expressions of Bai Lingjun, Wu Xiuxing, and the others, Luo Xingfeng knew that they had misunderstood. In the Permitha world, which one of the existences that were capable of being taken seriously by him, Luo Xingfeng, weren't existences that stood at the peak of the world? Among these top-notch existences, how could those who could be called dazzling be peerless existences in the ordinary sense? Compared to them, Lin Daoyuan might not be any special, but it depended on who he was compared to. However, Luo Xingfeng did not explain. With his identity, it was beneath him to explain. Those that had never cultivated in the Permitha world would not understand the profoundness of the world. "Is this Lin Daoyuan still in this world?" the white-robed young man suddenly asked. "Yes." Bai Lingjun, Wu Xiuxing, and the others nodded. "Chun'er, do you want to witness this Lin Daoyuan's capabilities?" Luo Xingfeng was surprised. In the Permitha Luo clan, Luo Chun was one of the most outstanding peerless martial monarchs among the younger generation. His talents were outstanding, and he was born to cultivate. When he was young, he had awakened the Luo clan's top bloodline talent, the Starfire spiritual spiral. In less than 800 years of cultivation, he had already reached the 4th layer martial monarch realm. This shocking speed of advancement had even left many of the elders of the clan in the dust, feeling ashamed of their inferiority. The most praiseworthy thing was that although Luo Chun had extreme arrogance that was branded in his bones, his wisdom and composure were unparalleled. Those that did not understand him would think that he was too arrogant and looked down on everyone. However, those that truly understood him knew that this kind of arrogance was a kind of undefeatable confidence. The cultivators of the Tao should have such boldness. This time, he had brought Luo Chun here to let him experience the world outside of the Permitha world. The Tao of invincibility that I'm pursuing is undergoing a subtle transformation. This time, I'm traveling to further perfect my Tao. Luo Chun spoke with a calm expression. "If I can undergo a great transformation within 100 years, I will participate in the 7 Tribes Monarch War to obtain a new origin law of order for my clan." Luo Xingfeng's heart shuddered. His eyes were filled with admiration as he said, "Such courage! In the entire clan, there are people who think highly of the eldest young master, and there are people who think highly of the 3rd young miss, but only 7th uncle thinks highly of you. 7th uncle believes that with Chun-Er's talent, you won't disappoint the clan." Luo Chun had awakened the Starfire spiritual spiral talent, which was a top-notch talent. Luo Chun didn't reveal any complacent or excited expression despite receiving the expectations of his elders. He was terrifyingly calm. "7th uncle, I only know that our Luo clan has a supreme talent called the Devouring Abyss. Unfortunately, countless years have passed, and 9th uncle has fallen in the Permitha world. I wonder if 6th uncle has captured the traitor, Luo Qingxuan." As he finished speaking, a trace of disappointment appeared between Luo Chen's brows. The abyss devours the sky. That was the reason why the Luo clan was able to stand tall in the Permitha heavens and look down on the world. Luo Xingfeng seemed to have recalled something from the past, and a wisp of coldness appeared in his eyes. He then smiled and said, "With the power of order that my Luo clan currently possesses, it won't affect the foundation of my clan even if there's an abyss devouring the sky." Luo Chen nodded and didn't say anything else. The conversation between the two was heard by Bai Lingzhen, Wu Xiuxing, and the others, but they were utterly confused. What seven-clan emperor war? What devouring abyss? They couldn't understand the meaning behind it at all. However, they knew what happened to the traitor, Luo Qingxuan. It could be said that because of this woman, the white tiger, the black tortoise, the immortal phoenix, and the true dragon, the four great innate spirit clans, had different fates. Let's go and meet the first ancestor of the immortal phoenix clan, who we don't know if she has awakened. Oh right, and that Lin Daoyuan. Luo Xingfeng made a decision. Bai Lingzhen, Wu Xiuxing, and the others were excited, and their hearts were filled with anticipation. After today, the immortal Phoenix clan would be uprooted, right? The once prosperous Myriad Fire Emperor city was now a stretch of endless ruins. Only the area near the God's Workshop A1 still had some intact buildings. The fourth level of the Emperor realm is called Metaphysic. When I break through this realm, I will encounter the mysterious realm tribulation. With my current cultivation, I may be able to break through in less than 3 months. In the God's Workshop covered by the falling Tao formation, Lin Sun sat cross-legged and meditated. In the recent period of time, strong signs of breaking through frequently arose in his heart, and it was like a sudden surge of inspiration caused him to sense some secrets of the heavens that belonged to the Grand Tao. This made him conclude that the fourth level of the Emperor realm was not far from him. Not far away, Huang Tsangtian and other old monsters of the immortal Phoenix clan were talking with Wanhualing Emperor, more or less nervous. Only Wanhualing Emperor was calm as usual. Lian Jiuxiao and the others of the God's Workshop Emperor clan had already settled down. Their combat power was not enough, and they would be a burden if they joined the battle rashly. Now, Xia Ji had once again fallen into extreme silence to cultivate, and it was impossible for her to wake up in a short time. At present, only she and Yellow could fight with Lin Sun. As for Yi Wu Kei and the Broken Blade Spirit, there was still a big gap between them and the Emperor Ancestor realm. Lin Sun had decided not to let them fight unless it was necessary. The atmosphere in the God's Workshop was very dull, even a little depressed. Everyone knew that the big shot of the Permitha Luo family would come today, which was destined to be an immeasurable fatal threat. No one was absolutely sure that they could solve this problem. Huang Tsangtian. Suddenly, the cold voice of Bai Lingzhen, the patriarch of White Tiger Clan, resounded outside the God's Workshop. Lord Luo Xingfeng, the seventh elder of the Permitha Luo family, has come here. Why don't you come out to greet him? If you don't want to be exterminated, come out quickly. At the same time, the voice of Wu Xiuxing, the patriarch of Black Tortoise Clan, also resounded. The threat in his words was completely undisguised. Whoosh! Lin Sun opened his eyes, and his huge spiritual awareness spread out like a tide. At the same time, Wanhualing Emperor, Huang Tsangtian, and others also stopped what they were doing and looked out of the God's Workshop. In the void, Luo Xingfeng and Luo Chen, who were dressed in Confucian robes and had wide sleeves, stood in front of them. Beside them, Bai Lingzhen, Wu Xiuxing, and other old monsters of White Tiger Clan and Black Tortoise Clan were gathered. But all eyes were focused on Luo Xingfeng and Luo Chen, because everyone knew that they were the biggest threat. At the same time, Lin Sun also saw Luo Xingfeng and Luo Chen, but he directly ignored Luo Chen. Staring at Luo Xingfeng for a moment, he couldn't help but squint his eyes. He couldn't see through this old guy's cultivation. My clan broke off relations with the Luo family a long time ago. No one from the Luo family is worthy of our greeting. Huang Tsangtian spoke. His voice was deep. How dare you? You're courting death. Bai Lingzhen and Wu Xiuxing shouted at the same time, reprimanding Huang Tsangtian. In fact, both of them were very happy. They couldn't wait for Huang Tsangtian's attitude to be tougher. In this way, if they annoyed Lord Luo Xingfeng, the deity Phoenix clan would be uprooted. But Luo Xingfeng looked indifferent and said, I'm here to see the ancestor of the deity Phoenix clan. As for you, you should leave." His voice was calm, but his attitude clearly showed that he didn't take Huang Tsangtian and others seriously. Wanhua Ling Emperor said with cold eyes, "The ancestor of the deity Phoenix clan has failed in nirvana. His cultivation is now under my control. Just tell me what you're here for." As soon as these words came out, Bai Lingzhen and Wu Xiuxing were stunned, and then sneered. "If he's alive, I want to see him. If he's dead, I want to see his corpse. What evidence do you have to prove that the ancestor of the deity Phoenix clan has failed?" What they were most worried about was the threat from the ancestor of the deity Phoenix clan. Naturally, they couldn't be dismissed by Wanhua Ling Emperor. "What qualifications do you have to ask me to prove that you're just borrowing the tiger's might?" Wanhua Ling Emperor's eyes flashed with disdain. The person she was most afraid of was Luo Xingfeng. Bai Lingzhen was about to say something, but Luo Xingfeng waved his hand and said calmly, "I've come to the deity Phoenix realm personally for only one purpose. I want the ancestor of the deity Phoenix clan to follow me to the Permitha world to cultivate. This is also a great opportunity for him." He paused for a moment before a wisp of deep coldness suffused his eyes, and he said, "If you even refuse my good intentions, then don't blame me for being merciless." His meaning was simple. The ancestor of the deity Phoenix clan had to bow his head and serve the Luo family in the Permitha world. Otherwise, there was no need for the deity Phoenix clan to exist anymore. This caused the expressions of Huang Tsangtian and the others to turn extremely dark and unsightly. "That's impossible," Wanhua Ling Emperor flatly refused. Luo Xingfeng suddenly smiled, but there was a kind of palpitating coldness in his smile. Among the 4 primordial spirit clans, the ancestor of the true dragon clan has made an unforgivable mistake and is still suppressed in the depths of the sea of sin. But after all, he has preserved the peace of the true dragon clan. I'd like to know how hard the bones of the deity Phoenix clan are." In a casual voice, Luo Xingfeng stretched out a hand. But at this moment, Luo Chen suddenly said, "Seventh uncle, don't do anything. Ask them which one is Lin Daoyuan." Luo Xingfeng was stunned and said, "Are you afraid that I will kill him by mistake? Well, let them live a little longer." At this time, Huang Tsangtian and others were all shocked. They even thought worriedly that the other party had seen through Lin Sun's identity. "Child, that boy is Lin Daoyuan." Bai Lingzhen pointed at Lin Sun and said quickly, with deep hatred in his eyes, 3 days ago, the attack of the White Tiger clan and the Black Tortoise clan was thwarted because of the appearance of Lin Sun. Many of their ancestors died. How could he not hate him? Swish. At the same time, Luo Chen looked at Lin Sun from afar through the formation of fallen Dao. In just an instant, a sharp and terrible light flashed in his eyes. Sure enough, it was this person. Just by looking at his aura, he was different from the others. Immediately, his eyes returned to their usual calmness. With his hands behind his back and his white clothes fluttering, he said casually, "Lin Daoyuan, do you dare to fight with me?" Genius 1 second to remember website. Mobile version. Chapter 2387. No one had expected that a young great emperor from family Luo of the Permitha continent would challenge Lin Sun at this moment. Bai Lingzhen and the other old guys must have told the young man about Lin Sun's strength, but he still dares to be so fearless. I'm afraid he must be very confident. Huang Tsangtian's eyes twinkled. They guessed that Luo Chen's strength must be extremely powerful. 3 days ago, Lin Sun killed an emperor ancestor with his own hands. His strength was so powerful that even the old antiques were shocked. Luo Chen dared to challenge Lin Sun at this time. He must be confident that he could suppress Lin Sun. Young man, you can't agree. Once your identity is exposed, the consequences will be serious. Huang Tsangtian reminded Lin Sun quickly. It doesn't matter. Lin Sun's black eyes were calm. He said, "Senior, do you think I can force Luo Xingfeng to retreat if I capture this boy?" Huang Tsangtian was stunned. Before Lin Sun could speak, Luo Xingfeng said, Lin Daoyuan, if you accept the challenge, I will give you a fair chance. I guarantee that no one will dare to intervene. His words were full of arrogance. That was his absolute confidence in Luo Chen. Luo Chen also said, If you perform well, I can give you a chance to live. If I appreciate you, I can even take you to the Nirvana world. There was a sense of condescension in his words. Isn't it too easy for this boy? Bai Lingzhen and Wu Xiuxing felt sour in their hearts. They hated Lin Sun to the core. How could they tolerate him to live? Luo Chen glanced at them without saying a word, which made them afraid to say anything more. Kill him. In the distance, Big Yellow felt very unhappy. Whether it was Luo Xingfeng or Luo Chen, they were all high and mighty, which disgusted him. Okay. Lin Sun nodded. After thinking for a while, he said, But no one is allowed to get close to this area except for the one fighting. This gesture showed that he was very cautious and careful, which made Luo Xingfeng sneer with disdain. But in the end, he waved his hand and retreated with Bai Lingzhen and Wu Xiuxing, leaving a large area for Lin Sun. Only then did Lin Sun walk out of the formation of falling heaven calmly. There's no need to worry about the others. Let's capture this kid first. If the other party dares to interfere, I will attack immediately. She and the myriad fire sovereign transmitted their voices at almost the same time. Lin Sun nodded secretly. Outside the formation, Luo Chen nodded when he saw Lin Sun walk out. You're courageous to accept the challenge in such a hopeless situation. However, I'm even more aware that the reason you accepted the challenge is probably because you intend to take me hostage. Pausing for a moment, he said in a leisurely manner, however, I advise you to extinguish this thought and prepare to go all out and fight to the death. Otherwise, if your performance disappoints me, I don't mind killing you. She, Myriad Fire Spirit Monarch, Huang Tsangtian, and the others couldn't help but shiver. This young man's perception was very sharp. Really? Lin Sun looked at Luo Chen up and down with his dark eyes. You know the power I showed 3 days ago, but you still dare to provoke me like this. You are really courageous. Luo Chen raised the corner of his mouth and said, You and I are both peerless great emperors. I'm in the 4th level of the emperor realm, but if we fight, I won't give in. In the distance, Luo Xingfeng suddenly said, This battle is for the Great Way. You can't use your natal emperor weapon. He recalled what Bai Lingzhen and the others had said. Lin Sun had a terrifying sword cauldron, and its power was beyond imagination. Luo Chen frowned. 7th uncle, please just watch the battle. Obviously, Luo Xingfeng's words made him very unhappy. So what if he used his natal emperor weapon? Didn't he have one? Luo Xingfeng laughed. All right, I'll just watch from the sidelines. Luo Chen nodded. In an instant, the aura around him suddenly changed. He was dressed in snow-white clothes. He was slim and handsome. When he was restrained before, his aura was as calm as a lake, elegant and otherworldly. However, at this moment, he was like a celestial sword piercing through the sky, splitting the void. It was extremely terrifying. The heaven and earth wailed, and the void buzzed and trembled as if it couldn't bear the terrifying pressure from Luo Chen. Great child's demeanor is unparalleled in this world. Bai Lingzhen, Wu Xiuxing, and the others praised. Half of it was flattery, and the other half was sincere. The power that Luo Chen showed was indeed extraordinary. It was unimaginably powerful. Swish! Luo Chen's eyes opened and closed. 2 golden beams flew out of his pupils and turned into 2 divine swords. With monstrous golden thunder and lightning, they rushed towards Lin Sun in the distance. Everyone was shocked. The battle had already broken out when the 2 of them had not said a word. On the other hand, Luo Chen had merely opened his eyes, yet he'd created such a terrifying scene. The divine ability contained within his eyes revealed the profound and fierce energy of the sword Dao, and it was truly shocking to the extreme. She and the others already knew that this time, Lin Sun might have encountered an extremely terrifying peer. His opponent had cultivated to the level of his eyes, which undoubtedly proved that his great way was extremely unusual. Dong! There seemed to be a thunderbolt in the void, which made everyone cry and their bodies shake violently. Lin Sun flicked his fingers and attacked forward. 2 beams of Taixian's sword qi were extremely dazzling. They crossed the sky like lightning, and there was a lot of dazzling Taoist light dancing in the air. It was as majestic as a heavy rain with a strong light. In an instant the 2 divine swords were smashed, and then they swept towards Luo Chen's eyes. Clang! Luo Chen stretched out his hand and a dense green rain of fire appeared. It turned into a deep and violent whirlpool and crushed the 2 beams of Taixian's sword qi inch by inch. Sparks flew everywhere. Kill him! Many people of the White Tiger clan and the Black Tortoise clan shouted. Boom! Luo Chen was as indifferent as before. He ran his own cultivation and walked in the void. His whole body was covered with dazzling green divine light. The monstrous divine law swooped down on Lin Sun with unparalleled divine power. At this moment, everyone held their breath and all the noise disappeared. Everyone realized that this attack would be earth-shattering. Because at this moment, Luo Chen was like a divine ruler. At this moment, his figure bloomed with the most brilliant light. His all-out attack could shake the sun, moon, rivers, and mountains. On the other side, Lin Sun rushed into the sky and met the attack. His bearing was calm, and his body was covered with a misty light, bringing along the divine power of the Great Path. Boom! The 2 collided like a tsunami hitting the shore, rocks falling and clouds collapsing. The light of the Great Path and the divine light were everywhere, sweeping everything away like dry weeds and rotten wood. Everyone's eyes stung. The great collision this time was too intense. 2 peak-level great emperors, one more powerful than the other, were like monsters that could not be measured by common sense. Luo Chen was fierce and domineering. Every move he made displayed all kinds of mysterious and terrifying Tao. Lin Sun did not give in. For a moment, the heaven and earth rolled as if it had sunk. Terrifying visions appeared, as if they had returned to the primordial chaotic age again. There, gods and demons ran amok, and mighty figures covered the sky with their hands. They tore apart the void and smashed stars one after another. Boom! With a loud noise, the 2 figures intertwined and separated. They each stood on one side, and their auras became more and more powerful. They were like a great furnace that illuminated the heavens. Luo Xingfeng was surprised. He was very clear about Luo Chen's strength and power, which could be regarded as outstanding in the Nirvana heavens. But Lin Daoyuan could fight against Luo Chen with the cultivation of the 3rd level of the Emperor realm. This surprised Luo Xingfeng. When did the deity Phoenix realm have such a nature-defying character? Clang! 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 A monstrous sound of swords rang out. Behind Luo Chen, many divine swords appeared. They were very beautiful, and the brilliance they emitted had a strange power. It was like the gathering of colorful flowing lights, so beautiful that it made people's hearts palpitate. This was formed from the power of the laws condensed from Luo Chen's cultivation. As he circulated it, it transformed the multicolored sword into an extremely green color. It was like an illusory glaze that emitted an ethereal aura. Starfire Azure Dipper Sword. 9 divine swords shot out like rainbows, piercing the sky, piercing the void. The fierce aura shocked the universe. Lin Sun's body was surrounded by roaring light, and his Taoist light evolved into complicated and mysterious Taixian sword formations. They lined up together and rushed forward with a loud bang. Kaboom! It was like the beginning of the world, thunder rumbled, and Taoist light exploded. One could vaguely hear the roars of innate gods, Buddhas chanting, and saints chanting. The scene was strange and terrifying. Between the 2 of them, all kinds of divine power surged, and the power of law interweaved and collided like a spider web. One of them controlled the green divine swords, like a sword god descending to the world, while the other performed the wonders of the sword formations, like a god setting up the nirvana heavens. They fought, and flipped. This was a collision between two peerless emperors. The two fought a great battle in the void, and their strength could be said to be unprecedented and rare among their peers. The sound of swords was loud and sonorous, and the green divine swords shot out in the air, carrying with them starlight and flames, and their killing power was monstrous. Lin Sun, on the other hand, countered the attacks with his hands, creating all kinds of mysterious and complicated sword formations that covered the heaven and earth. The two of them fought from the sky to the ground, and from the ground to the clouds. They were entangled with each other, and they seemed to be evenly matched. She, Goldie, and the others couldn't help but be moved by this. They were very clear about Lin Sun's foundation and strength. Among his peers on the starry ancient path, he was absolutely unparalleled, and he was a heaven-defying existence. Since Luo Chen was able to fight Lin Sun evenly, it was obvious how extraordinary Luo Chen's foundation was. However, she and Goldie still felt a trace of indescribable discomfort in their hearts. They clearly felt that Lin Sun seemed to be much more restrained in the battle than before. At the same time, Luo Xingfeng's eyes flickered incessantly. He couldn't help but be moved by Lin Sun's combat strength, and he restrained some of the contemptuous views and cognition in his heart. However, he was more confident in Luo Chen. Kaboom! Between the heavens and the earth, there was a great battle between the two of them. They were locked in a fierce battle, and blood would splatter from time to time. It was extremely intense and unparalleled. Lin Sun looked as calm as before, but in the battle, there were fine cracks on his body. That was the crack of his flesh.